Chapter 455. Yi Xuanji used to have a good relationship with Song Jinan, but ever since the engagement, the relationship between the two families had fallen apart and they gradually drifted apart. Hearing Song Jinan's words, Yi Xuanji's face darkened, and said, "Tang Zheng is no longer related to the Ye family. How you deal with it? What does it have to do with the Ye family?" "Hee, you're quite clean. I just don't know if the martial sect will think so," Song Jinan said meaningfully. "That's the truth. As for what the martial sect thinks, I can't control it. If the martial sect really wants to do something to the Ye family, my Ye family will accept it all," Yi Xuanji said firmly. Song Jinan sneered, but did not comment. When Yan Qishan saw this scene, his emotions fluctuated greatly, because the Yan family's attitude towards Tang Zheng was also divided into two factions. One of them was him, who believed that he should keep a respectful distance from Tang Zheng. The other faction was unexpected. It was actually his sister Yan Qingyi and his son Yan Luyun. This pair of aunt and nephew actually stood on the side of Tang Zheng, believing that it was impossible for Tang Zheng to lose just like that. This was truly puzzling. Even Yan Podin remained silent and in the end, decided to wait and see. The situation in the capital is getting more and more confusing. There's actually an aura of a great change. I really can't see through it. Yan Qishan thought to himself. Patriarchs, our top priority is to find out what's going on with this earthquake. This is the capital's land, and with such a big thing happening, the officials will not ignore it. They will definitely ask for the opinions of our families. Yan Qishan said in a deep voice. What Qishan said is extremely true. This is the most important thing right now. As for discussing other unimportant people, it would be putting the cart before the horse. Yi Xuanji said with a cold smile. Of course, Song Jinan knew that Yi Xuanji was talking about him, and said indifferently, "I don't think there's any difference between these two matters." With such a huge commotion, only cultivators are the biggest suspects, and the well-known cultivator in the capital is Tang Zheng. If we don't look for him, who else can we look for? If you don't go, my Song family will naturally appear, As soon as he finished speaking, Song Jinan was like a whirlwind, breaking through the air from the palace and disappearing into the night in the blink of an eye. Yi Xuanji retracted his gaze and asked, "Qian, your father is in seclusion, is he about to break through again?" Yan Qishan smiled faintly and said, "Nothing can be hidden from Patriarch Yi. My father has realized something and is indeed trying. He to the Yan to the clan, to the head of the few great clans, and the leader, the Yan family to be even to the head to, the position to the head to the head, the status as the head, the position as the head of the few great families' clans." He couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. It wasn't easy for him to break through to the first level of the supreme power realm, but he hadn't made any progress in the past 6 months, which made him quite annoyed. Tang Zheng, that brat's cultivation speed is like 1,000 miles a day, why don't I have it? He could not help but envy Tang Zheng. At this time, the police and the people from the Earthquake Bureau also arrived at the imperial city. Yi Xuanji and Yan Qishan did not stay any longer and broke through the air, leaving behind the officials to carry out a large number of tests. However, in the end, it was to no avail as they did not find a single clue. Although they could confirm that the source of the earthquake was here, the instruments could not detect anything at all. How could they report this to the higher-ups? As for the person involved, Tang Zheng did not care about how others reported this. He was already stunned by the scene along the way. The streets were filled with people with disheveled clothes, all of them panicking and looking as if they were ready to run for their lives at any time. Tang Zheng felt a little guilty. These people were originally sleeping in their beds, but they were tossed awake in the middle of the night in this cold weather. This made him even more determined not to touch the heaven and earth magnetite. After all, it was not like it could run away. As for the heaven and earth magnetite in the southern sea dragon palace, he was not in a hurry to find it. The final exam was just around the corner. He could not possibly skip the exam in the first semester, or else his grandfather would definitely be sad. He must give his grandfather a satisfactory result. Moreover, Mu Hongyan's business plan was about to take off and required a large amount of money. He should be thinking about money now. And this problem could only fall on the life-continuing pill. What he needed was not a few million, but hundreds of millions of funds. It was impossible to achieve without taking out some treasures. The life-continuing pill was undoubtedly a treasure. For those rich people, if it could increase their lifespan by 10 years, they would definitely agree to give up half of their family fortune. Since Tang Zheng had already exposed his identity as a cultivator, he did not mind taking out such a heaven-defying thing. Of course, the quantity could not be too much. After all, it was a rare commodity. He had to make those people fight over the life-continuing pill. Furthermore, they were willing to give the money to Tang Zheng as if they were begging their grandparents. This was the true meaning of standing and earning money. When they arrived outside of Lu Qingmei's neighborhood, Marshall could not help but ask, "Are you planning to keep silent? What exactly did you do to cause such a huge commotion?" Tang Zheng stopped in his tracks, stared at her and said, "Everyone has their own secrets, why should I tell you?" This was already a disguised admission that he was the one who did it. Of course, even if he did not admit it, Marshall had already determined that he was the one who did it. "Do you know that you are playing with fire? With such a big commotion, do you think you can hide it from others?" Marshall asked angrily. "As long as you don't say it, no one else will know," Tang Zheng said without thinking much of it. Even if I don't say it, others can guess that it's you. It's very difficult for a martial artist to cause such a big commotion. Only you mysterious cultivators can do it," Marshall said snappily. Tang Zheng shrugged his shoulders. "What's the use of guessing that it's me? In any case, I won't admit it. What you're doing is a huge threat to the government and the country. They won't sit idly by," Marshall warned. Tang Zheng smiled bitterly. He had just saved countless lives. According to the five-clawed golden dragon's nature, he would have directly broken through the formation. That would have been a huge loss of life. However, of course, he would not explain this. He said indifferently, "If the government wants to find me, then go ahead. In any case, it's not the first time I've dealt with them. It's too late, so I won't invite you upstairs to sit." Tang Zheng walked into the district with large strides. Marshall did not follow, but at the moment, the district was very lively. When Tang Zheng walked downstairs, he coincidentally met Lu Qingmei. She was wrapped in a bedsheet. Previously, she had a big battle with Tang Zheng and then fell asleep without wearing any clothes. After the tremors began, she got up and wrapped herself in a bedsheet. Then, she carried Nana and rushed downstairs. "Big brother." When Nana saw Tang Zheng, she opened her arms and threw herself into Tang Zheng's embrace. Tang Zheng hugged Nana. The girl was not afraid at all. Instead, she excitedly waved her little fists and said, "Big brother, there was an earthquake just now." "It's not an earthquake. Let's go home." Tang Zheng pinched her cheek and comforted her. Lu Qingmei cast a questioning gaze. Tang Zheng signaled with his eyes that she did not need to worry and then went upstairs. When the others saw that someone was going upstairs, they also went upstairs one after another. Of course, there were also people who directly set up tents in the district. After comforting Nana to sleep, Lu Qingmei snuggled into Tang Zheng's embrace and asked, "What happened?" Tang Zheng recounted what happened in the imperial city. Lu Qingmei was shocked when she heard it. She patted her chest with lingering fear and said, "It's too scary. Fortunately, you thought a little more. Otherwise, it would have caused a disaster tonight." "Yeah, so this five-clawed golden dragon is not that trustworthy." The dragon clan is too mysterious. We have to be careful. Tang Jing sighed. You have so many problems now, but I can't help you. I feel too useless. Lu Qingmei's expression darkened as she said dejectedly. Tang Jing rolled his eyes and said with a mischievous smile, Who said you can't help me? As he said that, he stretched out his devil's claws and sneaked into the sheets. Ah! Lu Qingmei cried out in alarm. Her face blushed red. Not long after, the waves rolled around. In the morning, Tang Zheng left the district alone. Due to the big commotion last night, Lu Qingmei's company informed her to take a day off to avoid another aftershock. Therefore, Nana stayed at home and let her take care of her. On the street, there were still many people discussing what happened last night. The television stations and radio stations on the street also took turns to broadcast the news. However, it was all the Earthquake Bureau that refuted the rumors, saying that it was not an earthquake this time. However, the people did not believe the words of the experts and the Earthquake Bureau these days. There were still many people who continued to stay outside. Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry at this scene. He really wanted to shout that everything was over, but that would definitely make him look like a lunatic. It was near the end of the semester and the classes were already over. This semester, Tang Zheng's number of classes was pitifully small. His grades in class were terrible. If he wanted to get good grades, he had to submit a perfect exam result. Moreover, he was the top scorer in the college entrance examination. If he did too badly, he would definitely become a laughingstock. What did Yenqing University lack the most? That was students with good grades, talents, and even top students. There was no lack of top students. Tang Zheng used to be the top scorer in a province. If he wanted to stand out in this final exam, he would have to put in a lot of effort. Although he had a photographic memory, there was a lot of knowledge that had to be learned and used flexibly. Rote memorization might not be useful. In addition, although he was a freshman, many top students were already doing research in the laboratory. They had their own research topics and research directions. In this aspect, Tang Zheng was lagging behind too much. This caused some criticism. His mentor was Qi Shaowen, a great figure. However, Tang Zheng did not have a single thesis. This was a little embarrassing for his mentor. Some people secretly criticized Professor Qi for being blind to have picked such an embroidered pillow like Tang Zheng. Although Tang Zheng was in school, these words had reached his ears through the mouths of the members of the 502. Man strives for dignity, and Buddha strives for an incense stick. Although he did not care about these false reputations, he did not care about any theses. After all, his mentor was Qi Shaowen. Moreover, Qi Shaowen treated him very well. He did not want to tarnish his mentor's reputation. Therefore, Tang Zheng had to work hard. He did not want to be a top student. Instead, he wanted to be a top student. He carried a bag of professional course books to the library. He took a seat and reviewed the textbooks one by one. He read very quickly. It could be said that he read 10 lines at a glance. Like a scanner, he flipped through the books continuously. Chapter 456. Many pairs of eyes looked at Tang Zheng in suspicion or surprise, then looked at each other. Was this brother here to perform? There was no need to use such a clumsy method to attract beauties, because one could tell with a single glance that it was fake. Who could read so fast? Tang Zheng was immersed in the sea of knowledge, completely unaware of it. In the end, when he finished reviewing the textbooks he brought, he was still unsatisfied, and there were still some knowledge points that he could not understand, so he went to the bookshelf at the side to look for relevant books to continue learning. He was like a learning maniac, a state that no other god of learning could compare to. Knowledge was like oxygen, quickly being absorbed by him and stored in his mind. One of the biggest characteristics of him reading was that he did not take notes, but when other students saw important knowledge, they would record it in their notebooks. As the saying goes, a good memory is not as good as a bad pen. No matter how good a person's memory was, there would always be times when they would forget. However, Tang Zheng had completely broken this rule. Because of his cultivation, his mind had already been developed a second time, and his memory was extremely strong, so he did not have to worry about forgetting it all. Finally, someone recognized this once famous figure in the school and exclaimed, "Isn't he the champion of the martial arts assembly?" "Right, what's his name again?" "Tang Zheng, right, his name is Tang Zheng Sigma. I haven't seen any trace of him in this period of time. I thought he had gone somewhere. Why did he appear again today?" "Putting on a show, he must be putting on a show to deceive the little girl. Look at those girls, they're all looking at him." Someone discussed. "That must be it. He's really crazy, using this kind of method to make his presence known. This is precisely the performance of his stupidity. Who would believe that he's reading a book? Yes, that makes sense." Phew. Tang Zheng heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally finished reading the relevant knowledge, and woke up from his intoxicated state, just in time to hear the chattering sounds of discussion. The corner of his mouth curled up as he smiled indifferently. Just as he was about to ignore them and leave, he saw a person walking straight towards him. "Ah!" Cries of surprise rang out, and the discussions became even more intense. "That's Ding Xiaowan. Why did she walk over? Could it be that she was attracted by such poor acting skills?" Someone was indignant and in disbelief. "I remember that Tang Zheng is from the archaeology department, and Ding Xiaowan was originally from the archaeology department as well. However, I don't know what happened later on, but they transferred to another academy. He must know him, so go and greet him. Tell him not to continue with such a clumsy performance, so as to not become a joke." "Yes, that must be it." Hearing that, Tang Zheng raised his eyebrows. He was not angry, but surprised. It had indeed been a while since he last saw Ding Xiaowan. Ding Xiaowan had met him on the train, and the process was not pleasant. Tang Zheng had once judged her as a brainless fan of Takashi. She had a good relationship with Takashi, but after Takashi was possessed by the demon god and killed her two good friends, she still insisted that it was Tang Zheng who did it. Later on, she almost died in the hands of the demon god. Fortunately, Tang Zheng saved her and she was sent to the hospital. After that, the two never met again. It seemed that her injuries had already healed and she had even transferred to another department. Tang Zheng did not have much of a good or bad impression of her. Although the other party was beautiful, Tang Zheng had seen too many beauties, and his eyes had long since been raised to the point that he could directly ignore her. He pretended not to see it and started to pack up his books. Just as he was about to leave, he saw Ding Xiaowan sitting down beside him, staring at him with a burning gaze, and said, "Tang Zheng, I have something to say to you." As Tang Zheng packed up, he said, "Speak. Thank you for saving me last time. It's just along the way." Tang Zheng said indifferently. Ding Xiaowan squeezed out a lonely smile, and said, "That person is no longer Takashi, right?" Tang Zheng raised his head and looked at her, only to discover that her eyes were filled with pain. But thinking about it, she definitely had a good impression of Gao Daji, but the other party wanted to kill her. This kind of huge reversal was hard to accept. "Yes." Tang Zheng nodded. "He's no longer in this world." "Yes." Ding Xiaowan's entire body seemed to have been sucked out of him as he sat paralyzed on the chair. After a long while, he finally came back to his senses and said, "I still have to apologize to you. I misunderstood you in the past. I'm not that petty." Tang Zheng shrugged. "If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. The way you were reading just now was a little strange. Everyone else was discussing it." Ding Xiaowan kindly reminded him. Tang Zheng said indifferently, I know, but I don't care what others say. Ding Xiaowan had no choice but to admit that Tang Zheng was such a unique person. Recalling the bits and pieces that they knew, Ding Xiaowan had no choice but to admit that she had misjudged him. The other party was very powerful, and it was against common sense, causing people to be extremely shocked. She had to admit that Tang Zheng was much stronger than her. Let's go together. Ding Xiaowan said. Let's go. Tang Zheng ignored the murderous gazes of the others, he could even hear the sound of many people's hearts breaking. Perhaps in the eyes of many people, Ding Xiaowan was both a top student and a goddess, but in Tang Zheng's eyes, she was still too stupid. In the end, he was not interested in women who were too stupid. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the two of them walked out of the library together, but the library was in an uproar. Many people were discussing, this kind of method of picking up girls was also effective. Could it be that all the girls nowadays were so easy to pick up? A few days later, a strange scene appeared in the library. Some boys quickly flipped through the books like a scanner. Unfortunately, all they received were supercilious looks, and not a single girl favored them. Tang Zheng and Ding Xiaowan parted ways after leaving the library. With regards to Ding Xiaowan's invitation to have a meal together, he rejected it without hesitation. It was already late, so he put the books back in his room and walked towards Lu Qingmei's house. Just as he walked out of the school gate, an off-road vehicle stopped in front of him. The door opened and a black-faced man walked down. He said with a face full of smiles, You are Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng nodded, Yes, who are you? My name is Blackie. Blackie. Tang Zheng thought for a while, then suddenly realized, Scarface mentioned you before. Back then, when they were at the bar, Scarface had suspected that Tang Zheng was one of Blackie's men, deliberately causing trouble. This meant that Blackie was also someone from the underworld of the capital. Hearing that, Blackie was flattered and said excitedly, You know me? What an honor. What business do you have with me? I'm here to thank you for helping me get rid of Scarface. He's my sworn enemy, and I've tried to get rid of him many times, but to no avail. I didn't expect you to help me so easily. Blackie said with a smile. Tang Zheng did not care about the grudge between the other party and Scarface at all, and said, Is there nothing else? Seeing that Tang Zheng was unwilling to say more, Blackie hurriedly said, Qin Batian is my big brother. Qin Batian, you're his younger brother? Tang Zheng asked in surprise. No, I'm his little brother. It's just that my big brother doesn't care about the underworld anymore, so I'll take care of it. Blackie explained. Tang Zheng was suddenly enlightened. He knew that Qin Batian was originally from the underworld, and relied on his own abilities to make a name for himself in the capital. However, after that, he washed his hands of the gold basin and no longer managed the matters of the underworld. It seemed that he had unintentionally helped his little brother. Tang Zheng revealed a trace of a smile and said, Since you're his little brother, then there's no need to be so courteous. It's just a small matter. Blackie let out a sigh of relief, thinking that his big brother's name was indeed useful. He said, I'm here to tell you something. Scarface is from the Chu clan, and even though you've gotten rid of him, the Chu clan may not let this matter rest. You have to be careful. Chu clan. Tang Zheng wrinkled his eyebrows, as he did not have a good impression of the Chu clan. Both sides had already crossed swords several times, and were mortal enemies. This time, he had unintentionally gotten rid of someone from the Chu clan. According to their style, they would definitely not let this matter rest. However, Tang Zheng was not afraid. Since he was not afraid of the Long clan, then naturally he would not be afraid of the Chu clan. Thank you for telling me this. Tang Zheng nodded his head. I just told Big Brother about this matter, and Big Brother said that he will personally go to the Chu clan to make peace, hoping to appease the Chu clan's anger. Blackie said. He went to the Chu clan. Why did he have to mobilize so many people? Big Brother said that you saved sister-in-law's life, so he definitely can't let the Chu clan vent their anger on you. Blackie said. Tang Jing sighed. With Qin Baishan's ability, he definitely already knew his identity as a cultivator. However, at this crucial time, he still dared to go to the Chu clan to plead on his behalf. Qin Batian is truly a loyal man, worth befriending. Tang Jing sighed. His mind moved, and he said, bring me to the Chu clan. He was not afraid of the Chu clan, so there was no need for him to plead with them. If you go to the Chu clan, I'm afraid that it will ignite the Chu clan's anger. It will be like a sheep entering a tiger's den, and it will be very disadvantageous for you. Blackie advised. Hang, it won't be that easy to harm me. Just bring me there directly. Tang Zhang said unconcernedly. Seeing that he was so insistent, Blackie could only helplessly say, then get in the car. The off-road vehicle sped towards the Chu family. The Chu clan's residence was not in the city, but in the beautiful suburbs. Tang Zhang and He Zi were casually chatting when suddenly, his ears slightly trembled as he called out, be careful. So. The sound of something breaking through the air came from afar, and a ray of light flew over from the horizon. It was incomparably bright and resplendent like the sun. Blackie's speed was very fast, and he immediately turned the steering wheel. The car suddenly moved horizontally and stopped in the middle of the road. Pooh! A ripping sound rang out, and a wave of air rolled out. The car was pushed by a huge force, and it crashed into the side of the road. A gust of wind blew in from behind, and the two of them turned their heads to look. They saw that the back half of the car had already disappeared, and it flew far away. The car seemed to have been split in two by some kind of sharp weapon, and if it was not for the fact that they had hurriedly moved horizontally, this kind of power would have cut them in half. Even a golden immortal would not be able to save them. Blackie was still in shock, and he loudly cried out, "What happened?" This kind of attack was too terrifying. It did not seem like a bomb or rocket attack, but more like a sword that cut through the car. Chapter 457. The off-road vehicle broke apart, and the two of them reacted very quickly. They turned their heads to take a glance, then kicked open the car door and jumped out, looking at the road ahead warily. At this moment, a person was standing in the middle of the originally empty road. It was a skinny old man. He was like a bag of bones, exuding a sense of vicissitudes. However, his eyes were very bright and killing intent flashed. In addition, he was holding a large saber in his hand. The blade was like snow, and it was suffused with a biting cold light. "Who are you?" Tang Zhang's eyes were like lightning as he stared at the other party and asked. "Hee, your reaction is quite fast. You actually escaped from this saber," the old man said with a laugh. However, his laughter was even more dry, as if it had been squeezed out from between the cracks of a stone. In addition, his appearance when he laughed was even more terrifying, causing people to panic. He Zi glanced at the large saber in the old man's hand in shock, revealing an expression of disbelief. That attack just now was actually caused by this large saber. This was too terrifying. To be able to split open a car with a single saber, what kind of divine weapon was this? However, Tang Zheng did not change his expression. He had already seen that this was indeed a treasured saber, but it could not be considered a divine weapon. The most important reason for it to have such power was that the other party's skills were sufficient, which was why this large saber could turn something rotten into something magical. As for who I am, let's see if you have the qualifications to know first. The old man's feet slipped, and he slid over a distance of several meters, directly arriving in front of the two of them. He Zi let out a low roar and threw out a punch, preparing to stop the other party. However, His collar was grabbed by Tang Jing, and he came to an emergency stop. Tang Zheng's voice rang out behind him, "You're no match for him. Watch the battle from the side." Whoosh! He Zi was helplessly pulled to the side, and could only stare at the two people who were already approaching. Tang Jing pointed out with a finger, and the dazzling blade had already reached the top of his head. Tang Zheng's finger touched the blade, and he lowered his body and slid under the blade, not being injured at all. "Ha, as expected, you have some ability." The old man's eyes lit up as if he had seen a predator. He turned his blade and attacked again. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had already exchanged dozens of blows. Although Tang Jing had not yet been defeated, it was obvious that he was at a disadvantage. However, his swordsmanship was very exquisite, and he could often catch his opponent off guard and help him out at critical moments. The battle between the two was dazzling. He Zi watched as if he was intoxicated. He clicked his tongue and praised, "This kind of battle is too powerful. It's filled with the beauty of strength." However, the person involved did not feel much of a sense of beauty, at least not for Tang Jing. He could already confirm that the other party was a grandmaster martial artist. There were not many martial masters in this world. Could it be that the other party was from the martial arts sect? But that was not right. Marshall had always been by his side, so it was impossible for him to send someone else to kill him. Other than the martial sect, there was also the Li Palace and the Azure Dragon Palace. When Li Xiaotian left, she was deeply worried. She had seen so many mysterious things in the prehistoric Heavenly Tomb and the Buzhou Mountain that could not be revealed to outsiders. Perhaps she had already realized the power of cultivators, and perhaps she would send people to deal with him. Other than these few mysterious organizations, the only ones left were the few great families and the officials. Tang Jing had seriously analyzed that for this country to be able to stabilize and flourish, it was impossible for it to be realized without a foundation. Although firearms were also a type of foundation, in the eyes of these ancient families and organizations, personal strength was the true foundation. This was a strength that no one else could snatch away. If the country was peaceful, then the officials would definitely raise experts. These experts would be their foundation and trump cards. When he was in southern Yunnan, although Tang Jing had intimidated the military, he might not be able to intimidate the people in his residence. Therefore, he could not rule out the possibility that someone had sent an official expert to deal with him. No matter what the situation was, the only thing Tang Jing could do was to resist and send a signal to others. Tang Jing, am not someone to be trifled with. Tang Jing, you are not my match. Obediently accept your death. The old man sneered, his face stiff, like a zombie. If you want me to die, this bit of ability might not be enough. Tang Jing said in disdain. He soared into the air, a light flashed in his hand, and he had already pulled the bowstring of the heaven-shocking bow, knocked the shooting sun arrow on the bow, and aimed it at the old man. The old man did not dodge or give way, and said, "Legend has it that back then, your bow even injured the demon god." I was fortunate enough to see it, but I wonder if your bow is stronger, or if the blade in my hand is stronger." Tang Jing remained unmoved, his fingers were as steady as the surface of an ancient well. Suddenly, his fingers released, and the shooting sun arrow released a buzzing sound, quickly shooting towards the old man. The old man's expression was serious as he praised, "Good weapon." Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The broadsword waved forward 3 times, and the chi in front of the old man was completely locked down by the broadsword. When the shooting sun arrow arrived in front of him, it affected the chi, and the broadsword accurately hit the shooting sun arrow. Ding! The shooting sun arrow bounced back. Tang Jing leaped into the air, stretched out his long arm, grabbed the shooting sun arrow, and shot it out again. This time, there were actually 3 shooting sun arrows on the heaven-shocking bow. The 3 arrows shot out at the same time, from top to bottom, aiming straight for the old man's vital points. The old man's expression did not change, and he said, "Amazing, I'll let you take a look at my sunset blade technique." The sunset blade technique's blade pierced through the sky like the setting sun, erupting with a final dazzling light. This blade seemed to have used up all of his power. Actually, the sunset blade technique only had one move. It was a simple move, but it contained an enormous amount of power. It was much more powerful than the flashy blade techniques. At this moment, the broadsword turned into a setting sun, slashing down. Clang, clang, clang. The 3 arrows were completely blocked, but the broadsword's attack did not slow down, and actually attacked right in front of Tang Zheng's eyes. Tang Zheng's expression changed slightly. The 3 arrows were shot at the same time, but they were still unable to block the other party, and even gave the other party a chance to take advantage of it. This sunset blade technique was indeed extraordinary. However, he did not have the time to exclaim in surprise. Seeing that the broadsword was already in front of him, he did not have the time to pull the bowstring again. He grabbed forward with both hands, and a mental cultivation method suddenly circulated in his heart. A mysterious power spread out from his palms. The broadsword that was like a hot knife through butter stopped right in front of his nose. It was extremely dangerous. What's going on? The old man's expression suddenly changed as he cried out in alarm. He felt a strong suction force tearing at the broadsword, and it was a risk of slipping out of his hand at any time. Tang Zheng was too familiar with the mental cultivation method that was circulating on its own, because this was a set of mental cultivation methods from the demon clan. Back then, he had learned the only set of cultivation methods from the demon clan's Jade Tablet, Heaven-Devouring Technique. This set of cultivation methods was not as vicious as the other cultivation methods of the demon clan. One only needed to cultivate silently. Back then, Tang Zheng had used the Heaven-Devouring Technique to absorb items like chairs. Later on, because of the Heaven-Shocking Bow and the Sun-Shooting Arrows, this set of cultivation methods was gradually put aside. But at this moment, at the critical moment of life and death, this mental cultivation method actually circulated on its own. However, this was not what surprised him the most. What truly surprised him was that the power of the Heaven-Devouring Technique had increased greatly. Even he could not help but be shocked by the boundless suction force. Whiz! The broadsword left his hand and the old man let out a strange cry of disbelief. He watched as his weapon disappeared into thin air in front of him, as if it had never appeared before. What's going on? The old man turned pale with fright. Tang Zheng could not answer this question. With his previous attainments in the Heaven-Devouring Technique, it was impossible for him to devour the broadsword from the old man's hands. After all, a warrior's second life was their weapon. Some people even valued their weapon more than their own life. If the sword was destroyed, the person would die. If the blade was still there, the person would still be there. If the blade was broken, the person would still be there. This was the principle. One could imagine how difficult it was to snatch the weapon from the hands of a master stage warrior, but Tang Zheng did it in front of everyone's eyes. He's the head of the Chu clan, Chu Chongyang. A cry of surprise broke the silence between the two. He Zi shouted with a pale face. Of course, he did not know Chu Chongyang, but he had heard of the setting sun blade technique. This was the ultimate skill of the head of the Chu clan, and he was the only one in the Chu clan who knew this set of blade techniques. It was very difficult for ordinary people to see such an ultimate skill, but He did not expect that he would have such an honor. However, he really did not want to have such an honor. He hoped that he would never see this set of blade techniques in his life, because seeing this set of blade techniques meant that the god of death was waving at him. Didn't Big Brother go to the Chu clan to make peace? Could it be that the negotiations broke down? He thought in bewilderment. Chu Chongyang, who has not shown his face for many years, actually came personally to kill Tang Zheng. This is too much. Tang Zheng's heart moved, and he stared at the other person curiously. This person was actually the head of the Chu clan, no wonder he was so powerful. The enmity between him and the Ya clan could not be resolved, so it was not wrong for the other party to kill him. Therefore, Tang Zheng was not angry, but was slightly surprised. The other party was really willing to go all out to get the head of the Chu clan to act. What kind of technique did you use? Chu Chongyang came back to his senses and asked coldly. Tang Zheng picked up the shooting sun arrow and smiled faintly. You wouldn't know even if I told you. Cultivators are really mysterious and powerful, but because of this, it is all the more reason to eliminate you from this world. Chu Chongyang said with a murderous look. You don't even have a weapon, do you still think you can kill me? Tang Zheng asked in return. Although your spells are marvelous, your cultivation is definitely not as good as mine. Therefore, even without a weapon, you are still not my opponent. It is precisely because the Chu clan already has an enemy like you that we cannot let you continue to grow stronger. If we don't get rid of you now, there will be no end of trouble in the future, Chu Chongyang said firmly. Tang Zheng's eyes flashed coldly. The other party was really smart. He knew that the longer he waited, the harder it would be for the Chu clan to deal with him. Now was a golden opportunity. Since you are so confident, then come. Tang Zheng said without fear. He Zi was so scared that he trembled. His mouth and tongue were dry. They hadn't even started fighting yet, but they still had to fight. What should he do later? No, I have to contact Big Brother. He Zi was out of his wits. He secretly sent a message to Qin Badian, then leaned against the car window and stared at the two people. Chapter 458. Tang Zheng's pupils constricted, he stared fixedly at Chu Chongyang who was waiting for an opportunity to make a move. Seeing that the other party did not make a move, Tang Zheng sneered, if you don't move, I'll move. He grabbed at the air, and a strong suction force appeared in his palm. The power of the heaven-devouring technique was extraordinary. Just now, he had a flash of inspiration and finally understood why the heaven-devouring technique's power had increased explosively. Obviously, all of this had something to do with Qi Yu's heart. Qi Yu was the ancestor of the demon clan, so he definitely knew how to use the heaven-devouring technique. Coincidentally, Tang Zheng had also cultivated the heaven-devouring technique, which was why the power of this technique had increased so much. Seeing that Tang Zheng was attacking, Chu Chongyang had no choice but to counterattack. He pointed his finger, and a burst of qi shot out like a sharp arrow. Tang Zheng suddenly remembered that Tian Chanzi had once revealed a consummate skill. The sword qi had condensed into a materialized sword, shocking everyone at Yan Potion's birthday banquet. Chu Chongyang's attack only caused a violent fluctuation in the air, forming an invisible force in the air. However, Tang Zheng could clearly feel that this was not some sword technique, because there was not the slightest bit of sword intent within it. This is a finger technique. Tang Zheng cried out involuntarily. Humph, your eyes are not bad. This is the six-yang divine finger, extremely masculine and masculine. Chu Chongyang raised his eyebrows and said proudly. This was the Chu family's ultimate skill, unlike the setting sun saber technique that Chu Chongyang had created himself. This six-yang divine finger was the blood and sweat of many generations of the Chu family. Only the head of the family could cultivate it. Even Chu Mingxian had not cultivated it yet. This set of finger techniques had very strict requirements for the cultivator's body, and had to have sufficient yang qi. Chu Xiaofeng had once coveted this set of finger techniques, and had failed to succeed even after coaxing and pestering. Furthermore, his body had been hollowed out by wine and women, so cultivating this set of finger techniques was half the result with twice the effort. The force of the attack was the unique inner strength of the martial warriors. It was activated using a special method and circulation path, thus achieving the goal of lasting and great lethality. The most masculine and masculine, I don't think so. Tang Zheng gave up on using the heaven-gulfing technique. He waved his hand and a 4 symbols venerable appeared on the road out of thin air. Fortunately, this section of the road only led to the Chu clan's mansion, and no other vehicles passed by. Otherwise, the appearance of such a huge monster out of nowhere would definitely cause a huge panic. The 4 divine symbols was no longer a secret, so Tang Zheng had no qualms about using it. With a leap, he disappeared into the 4 divine symbols' body. The Reverend of 4 symbols raised his foot and stomped down on Chu Chongyang's head. Chu Chongyang pointed out with his finger. With a poof, the force landed on the Reverend of 4 symbols, but he was unharmed. However, the 4 symbols venerable's foot landed on his head. Chu Chongyang's face turned pale with fright and he rolled to the side. He was battered and exhausted. Ever since he became famous, he had never been in such a sorry state. He Zi, who was watching from the side, was already stunned. Just now, he was still worried about his gains and losses, and was prepared to run away if things went wrong. However, at this moment, the tables had turned, and Tang Zheng had actually turned into a giant. Is this an illusion? He Zi rubbed his eyes to make sure that this was not an illusion. He smacked his lips. Is this an immortal technique? This was indeed beyond the limits of an ordinary person's imagination. This was also beyond Chu Chongyang's expectations. He attacked a few more times, but he could not do anything to the 4 divine symbols. Not to mention bare-handed attacks, it was difficult for a normal weapon to leave a mark on the 4 divine symbols' body. The reason why Tang Zheng was so confident was because he had the 4 divine symbols as his guardian. In the past, the 4 divine symbols venerable protected the shaman tribe. Now, the 4 divine symbols venerable was protecting him. Since the other party was weak, then Tang Zheng would not be polite. With a loud roar, the roar came out from the 4 symbols venerable's chest. It was like the sound of thunder, rumbling, causing one's heart to pound like a bell. Bang! With a kick, sand and pebbles flew, and a huge pit appeared on the cement road. Chu Chongyang brushed past the pit by a hair's breadth. Dust covered his face, and he was covered in grime. When the first attack did not hit, another attack came, and it was endless. Although the 4 divine symbols venerable was a colossus, his agility was not low. He relied on his indestructible body to launch thunderous attacks. In the beginning, Chu Chongyang could still handle it with ease, but later on, he could not make ends meet. Danger surrounded him, and he became more and more miserable. He was so angry that his beard blew and his eyes widened. He shouted angrily, "Tang Zheng, what kind of sorcery is this? Didn't you want to kill cultivators? This is a cultivator's method. How about it? Can you still confidently kill me now?" Tang Zheng asked disdainfully. Chu Chongyang's face flushed red, and he could not say anything. Tang Zheng was delighted. These great clans really thought that he was number 1 in the world. They ordered him around arrogantly as if they were high and mighty. The Ya clan was like that, and so was the Chu clan. However, because of Yi Dingdang, he could choose to ignore the Ya clan, but the Chu clan was not so lucky. Moreover, they were sworn enemies, and the other party took the initiative to attack and wanted to kill him. Therefore, he would not show mercy at all. However, Chu Chongyang was a second-level Supreme Power Master after all. It was impossible to kill him easily. Chu Chongyang tried to attack a few more times, but he still failed. No, it's not good for me to go on like this. This guy is invincible with this colossus. I have to leave first and think of a way. This thought instantly made him make preparations to retreat. Although it was very difficult to make this decision, he was decisive and didn't hesitate. He turned around and rushed in the direction of his home. You want to escape? Tang Jing shouted angrily and chased after him. He Zi was stunned. A supreme power master wanted to escape when facing Tang Jing. This was too crazy. Chu Chongyang's speed was very fast. Although the four symbols venerable was not slow, he could not catch up with him. However, how could Tang Jing watch him escape? If he missed this great opportunity, who knew where Chu Chongyang would hide in the future? Therefore, Tang Jing moved his mind, and a cloud of black smoke jumped out from the chest of the venerable thought and chased after Chu Chongyang lightly. Chu Chongyang turned his head and found a cloud of black smoke chasing after him. He was shocked and said, "What kind of sorcery is this?" This cloud of black smoke was obviously faster than him. In the blink of an eye, it caught up with him and enveloped him. Oh no! He instinctively sensed the danger and used the 6 yang divine fingers. Puff, puff, puff. Waves of qi surged and blew away the black smoke. However, the black smoke seemed to have a consciousness. It gathered in an instant and attacked him head-on, wanting to envelop him. Chu Chongyang had no choice but to use the 6 yang divine fingers continuously. Fortunately, this set of martial arts was really powerful. He was able to disperse the black smoke by the skin of his teeth several times, saving his life. However, he still could not figure out what this black smoke was. Humans had an instinctive fear of unknown threats, so he became more and more flustered. After such a delay, he had no way to escape. The 4 symbols venerable thought caught up with him. What the hell is this? Chu Chongyang roared in exasperation. Dragon trapping rope. It's something that can restrain you. However, it's really overkill. You're at most a worm, not a dragon. Tang Jing moved his mind, and the black smoke suddenly went straight down, turning into a thin line. It quickly wrapped around Chu Chongyang's ankle and then went straight up, wrapping around his entire body. Chu Chongyang heard this and flew into a rage. He was the head of a family, but he was jokingly called a worm. It was really humiliating. However, there was nothing he could do. Of course, he would not sit still and wait for death. Seeing the dragon trapping rope go straight up, wanting to bind his entire body, he gritted his teeth and flicked his fingers quickly. Swoosh, 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 gusts of wind shot toward the dragon trapping rope around his ankle. The dragon trapping rope trembled violently when it was hit. Although the dragon trapping rope was a magic weapon, it was not as indestructible as the 4 symbols venerable thought. It was damaged by the attack and involuntarily relaxed a little. However, Chu Chongyang's situation was not optimistic. The 6 yang divine fingers did not all hit the dragon trapping rope. Some of them hit his ankle directly. He grimaced and sucked in a breath of cold air. Blood oozed from his ankle and dyed his trouser leg red. I haven't hurt you for many years. I didn't expect to be defeated by you today. Chu Chongyang roared hysterically. Tang Jing snorted and did not comment. He punched out. The 4 symbols venerable thought's huge fist broke through the air and went straight for Chu Chongyang's head. Chu Chongyang's other foot touched the ground and retreated, dodging the attack. However, the 4 symbols venerable thought followed him like a shadow and caught up with him. Chu Chongyang's leg was injured, and his speed was already on par with the 4 symbols venerable thought, so there was no hope for him to escape. Chu Chongyang's face was as gloomy as ink. He thought to himself, could it be that I, Chu Chongyang, am really going to meet with Waterloo and lose my life in this brat's hands? He was unwilling, and could not accept this result. Stop! Suddenly, a furious roar sounded out, and a convoy rushed over aggressively. On the convertible at the front, there was a person standing high up, roaring at the 4 symbols venerable thought. This person was Chu Mingxian. Back then, at Yan Potion's birthday banquet, Chu Mingxuan's bones were crushed by Tian Chanzi, and then he was cured by the king of medicine. Although a few months had passed, his cultivation had not completely recovered. He was originally pretending to be polite to Qin Badian, but unexpectedly, Qin Badian received a text message and was about to leave in a hurry. Just at this time, Chu Mingxuan's subordinates also came to report that there was an intense battle on the road not far from the mansion. Chu Mingxian originally knew that the patriarch had already gone to deal with Tang Jing, and immediately realized that this battle was definitely between the patriarch and Tang Jing. Since Qin Badian was in such a hurry, he must have received the news and wanted to rescue Qin Wendian. How could he allow Qin Badian to succeed? However, it wasn't good for him to obstruct Qin Badian directly. Hence, he led a large number of troops and charged out in an overbearing manner. If he could personally witness Tang Jing die in front of him, it would truly be a great joy in his life. But when he arrived, what he saw was a scene that he never would have dreamed of. Chu Chongyang was actually beaten up like a dog that had fallen into the water, and a huge monster had appeared at the scene. However, Chu Mingxuan's reaction was also very fast, and he immediately ordered, "Open fire, hit this monster." Bang, bang, bang. Chapter 459. Seeing that the enemy's reinforcements had arrived, Tang Zheng was even more unwilling to delay. With a stride, he stepped over Chu Chongyang's head. Chu Chongyang's charging body involuntarily stopped. He glared fiercely at the four symbols venerable who was blocking his way and roared angrily, "You really want to kill me? You want to kill me? Courtesy demands reciprocity. Of course I want to kill you." Tang Zheng roared with murderous intent. Just at this time, those few cars had already rushed in front of them. "Crash into them!" Chu Mingxian roared. The car engine immediately let out a low roar. The tires rubbed against the ground, causing waves of white light to spurt out. Long tire marks were left on the ground. The car sped up and directly crashed toward the four symbols venerable. Tang Zheng's expression did not change. With a kick, one of the cars flew into the air and flipped, smashing into a ball of flames in the distance. However, the other cars carried a huge amount of kinetic energy and crashed into the four symbols venerables' legs. The four symbols venerable staggered and swayed violently, almost falling down. Tang Zheng took a deep breath and roared, "You want to turn things around with just a few cars? You're looking down on me too much." The four symbols venerable threw out punches like rain. His fists rained down on the car under his feet. Pang, 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 the car was instantly turned into scrap metal. Tang Zheng's gaze trembled. He saw Chu Mingxian, who was not far away. He was standing on the convertible car, continuously pulling the trigger at the four symbols venerable. When he ran out of bullets, he was still pulling the trigger out of habit. "Chu Mingxian, back then, Tian Chanzi said that you could be spared the death penalty, but you couldn't be forgiven. He spared your life. Today, you can't blame me." Tang Jing sneered. Chu Mingxuan's face turned pale. His breathing instantly quickened as he asked in disbelief, "You are Tang Jing? Hee, you have some insight." The four symbols venerable laughed. Chu Mingxuan's courage was shattered. This huge monster was actually that brat Tang Jing. "Go to hell, Chu Mingxian!" Tang Jing shouted. The four symbols venerable pounced over with large strides. "Stay here." Seeing this, Chu Chongyang leaped up and landed on the four symbols venerable's body. Kicking off the ground with the tips of his feet, he soared up and reached the four symbols venerable's chest in an instant. "Kill!" Chu Chongyang roared furiously, and used 3 moves of 6 Yang divine fingers in succession. Pang, 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 the force of qi crashed into the chest of the four symbols honored warrior. Tang Zheng wasn't worried at first, but after taking this attack, his heart started beating violently, and his blood seemed to be boiling. What's going on? Tang Zheng was aghast. In the past, the 4 divine symbols had suffered so many attacks, but he had never felt this way. Why was it so uncomfortable this time? The heart. Yes, Chu Chongyang is attacking the heart. It turns out that the four symbols warrior also has a gate of life, which is the heart. This is the most vulnerable part. If the enemy breaks through here, then the four symbols warrior will be completely destroyed. Tang Zheng was shocked by this discovery. He had thought that the four symbols warrior was invincible, but it turned out that he also had a weakness. He forcefully endured his roiling qi in blood. Stretching out a large hand, he grabbed at Chu Chongyang. Chu Chongyang somersaulted in the air, dodging this attack, and landed on the ground. Tang Zheng exhaled deeply, but didn't dare let his guard down. If he let the other party attack a few more times, then he would be in big trouble. However, because of Chu Chongyang's strong attack, Chu Mingxian escaped from the tiger's den, and retreated far away. The other car didn't retreat, because Qin Batian was sitting on it. He had already gotten out of the car, and was looking at the four symbols warrior dumbfoundedly. He wondered why Tang Zheng's voice would come out from this giant car. Could it be that he was controlling this big guy from inside? The methods of cultivators are really mysterious. Qin Batian sighed. Seeing the sorry state of the Chu family's father and son, he felt greatly relieved. The Chu family was showing off. Just now, he had taken the initiative to make peace, but the other party put on airs, obviously not agreeing. But now, they were beaten into a sorry state by Tang Zheng. It was really refreshing. But it was obvious that Tang Zheng had used a killing move, which meant that he wanted to kill the Chu family's father and son. Even Qin Batian didn't have this kind of determination. Although he had been doing well these past few years, he still didn't dare to directly become enemies with the few great families. But Tang Zheng had the guts to directly kill Chu Chongyang and Chu Mingxian. How much courage did this require? Qin Batian sighed at his own inferiority, but didn't have time to interfere. He only saw the four symbols warrior rush in front of Chu Chongyang again. One big and one small, quickly began to fight. Chu Chongyang relied on his agility, and although he wasn't a match for the four symbols warrior, he was able to escape death a few times. Tang Zheng knew that he had to end the battle quickly. This place was not far from the Chu family, and if he delayed for too long, the Chu family's reinforcements would arrive, and it would be even more difficult to kill Chu Chongyang. But, he didn't expect that the Chu family's reinforcements would come much faster than Tang Zheng had expected. The two of them had only fought for a while when a roar came from the horizon, and a helicopter quickly flew over. Whiz! A missile flew over and hit the four symbols venerable, causing sparks to fly like dazzling fireworks. The four symbols warrior took a step back. Tang Zheng looked at the helicopter above his head in shock. This missile was obviously more powerful than the one that attacked the witch tribe. The Chu family actually has a missile. These great families really have a lot of resources. Tang Zheng clenched his teeth and muttered to himself hatefully. Back then, Yi Tianlei also had a helicopter in the ordinary balance, but that was only a normal civilian helicopter, and this one was a military helicopter. But, with the strength of these great families, it was not impossible for them to have such a powerful weapon. Seeing that this huge object only took a step back and didn't explode, the others were dumbfounded and felt that it was unbelievable. This was a missile, not a bullet. Chu Chongyang quickly got away and shouted, "Shoot! Blast him to pieces for me!" Whiz! Whiz! Two more missiles tore through the air, and the four symbols knight hurriedly dodged them. However, one of the missiles brushed past the four symbols knight's shoulder and hit a boulder by the side of the road. With a boom, the boulder shattered into pieces and rained down like a drizzle. However, the other one struck the four symbols venerable in the chest. With a thud, the four symbols venerable was sent flying backward, crashing into a tree on the side of the road. The tree trunk broke, and the four symbols venerable fell to one knee, barely stopping himself. Puff! Tang Jing spat out a mouthful of blood. His innate qi rolled like a surging river, causing him to feel dizzy. When the others saw this kind of attack, they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They stared at the four symbols warrior without blinking. Although they couldn't see Tang Jing inside, everyone was sure that Tang Jing didn't die from the attack. Chu Chongyang had already deeply experienced the power of the four symbols warrior. Seeing that the missile attack was effective, it was as if he had obtained a treasure. He shouted, "Continue to attack, kill him." Whiz! 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 The remaining 3 missiles on the helicopter fired one after another, heading straight for the four symbols warrior who was kneeling on one knee. Chu Mingxuan's eyes were red as he clenched his fists tightly. His nails pierced into his palms and blood flowed out, but he didn't feel it at all. He only opened his mouth and said in a low voice, "You must kill him, kill him. Tang Jing, dodge." At the critical moment, Qin Batian shouted a reminder. However, it was already too late for him to save the other party. He also didn't think that his body of flesh and blood could withstand such a powerful missile. Tang Jing wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and hurriedly circulated his energy to calm his agitated innate qi. His eyes were bloodshot as he shouted, "You want to kill me? Go to hell." His legs that were kneeling on the ground suddenly bounced up. The four symbols warrior soared into the sky and somersaulted in the air, brushing past 2 missiles. He stretched out his hand and actually grabbed one of the missiles, throwing it in the opposite direction. This missile let out a sharp whistle as it tore through the air and flew towards the helicopter. Seeing this, the pilot of the helicopter was so scared that his soul left his body. He hurriedly rose into the air to dodge, but it was already too late. The missile accurately hit the helicopter. With a rumble, the helicopter turned into a cloud of sparks. Catching a missile with his bare hands and returning the favor with the other party's method. This move was incomparably dazzling, causing people to be intoxicated and dazzled. In any case, the spectators on the ground were all dumbfounded, as if they had been cursed. "Run!" Chu Chongyang shouted. He made a prompt decision and turned to run like a madman. Chu Mingxian seemed to have woken up from a dream and also turned to run. "Want to run? No way." The four symbols warrior was still in midair. With a bang, his feet landed on the ground, kicking up dust as he directly blocked Chu Chongyang's path of retreat. Chu Chongyang grimaced and shouted, "Those who block me will die." Both of his hands shot out and his 10 fingers flicked. Streams of qi accidentally shot at the four symbols warrior's chest. Tang Zhang's qi and blood surged again and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Oh no, the four symbols warrior can't take it anymore. Somehow, Tang Zhang actually had the illusion that he was about to fall apart. He turned pale with fright. If the four symbols warrior was really destroyed, it would be an unimaginable loss for Tang Zhang. However, this was not enough to take Tang Zhang's life. He immediately flew up and kicked Chu Chongyang in the stomach. Chu Chongyang flew out like a cannonball, leaving behind a red line in the sky. Tang Zhang immediately drilled out of the four symbols warrior's chest and kept the four symbols warrior into his sumo ring. After taking this kick, Chu Chongyang's injuries were not light, but he still did not dare to stay any longer. His body somersaulted in the air, stabilized his body, and then rushed into the distance. "You want to escape? Hand over your life." Tang Zhang took out his heaven-shocking bow and shooting sun arrows. It was not one shooting sun arrow, but a total of 6 shooting sun arrows. This time, in order to kill his opponent, he had really put in a lot of effort. The shooting sun arrows flashed, one after another, a series of arrows shot towards Chu Chongyang, as if they were chasing after his soul, flying towards Chu Chongyang. Chu Chongyang did not even dare to turn his head back. He already knew that there were layers of killing intent behind him, and with a flip of his hand, he used his 6-yang divine finger. The chi struck one of the shooting sun arrows, causing the shooting sun arrows to deviate and fly past him. Following the same pattern, 4 consecutive shooting sun arrows were deflected by him using his 6-yang divine finger, allowing him to escape this calamity. However, Tang Zheng had used up all of his strength to shoot these 6 arrows at once. His legs were weak and he had already fallen to the ground. He could only stretch his neck to look around. As for whether this attack would succeed or not, he could only leave it to fate. Puff! An arrow of blood shot out from Chu Chongyang's chest. Chapter 460. Chu Chongyang was nailed to the ground, not moving at all. Blood flowed out from the wound on his chest, dyeing the ground red. The tail of the arrow on his back was still trembling non-stop, showing the power of the arrow. Tang Zheng laid on the ground, watching this scene from afar, and finally heaved a sigh of relief. Chu Chongyang was finally hit by the shooting sun arrow, but no one knew if he was dead or alive. Tang Zheng rejoiced a little, but also felt that it was unreal. In the past, he had never thought that he could actually kill a great master martial artist. This kind of expert was the pillar of a large family, and could even support a large family. Back then, Yi Xuanji had spent a lot of effort to break through to the great master realm. It could be seen how important a warrior of this level was. But today, a great master martial artist had fallen at the hands of Tang Zheng. Of course, Tang Zheng was also extremely glad. If he had not used the 4 symbols venerable to injure his opponent first, and then completely destroyed his opponent's confidence and will to fight, he would not have had the chance to use this chain of arrows. 6 consecutive arrows, this was already Tang Zheng's limit, which was why he fell down from exhaustion. At this moment, any enemy could take his life. However, everyone's attention was still firmly attracted by Chu Chongyang, who was lying on the ground. Their minds were filled with an earth-shattering shock. It was as if everything was happening in a dream, so unreal. Especially the people of the Chu family, their eyes had almost lost their spirit. Chu Chongyang was like a god in their hearts, unreachable and undefeatable. But at this moment, he had actually lost at the hands of a young man. Father! Chu Mingxian seemed to have awoken from a dream as he rushed towards Chu Chongyang in fear. With a plop, he knelt in front of him and turned him around. Chu Chongyang's eyes were tightly shut, the corner of his mouth and chest were dyed red with blood, and the arrow that pierced through his chest flickered with a cold light, overflowing with killing intent. Ah, father, how can you die? Chu Mingxian roared towards the sky, filled with anger, disbelief, and unwillingness. Chu Chongyang's life force was already gone. His life was completely ended by this soul-severing arrow, and the patriarch of a generation had fallen. Tang Zheng, I will kill you. Chu Mingxian knew very well what Chu Chongyang's death meant to the Chu family and him. He abruptly turned his head to stare at Tang Zheng and roared hysterically. Chu Mingxian put down Chu Chongyang, stood up, and walked towards Tang Zheng step by step. His eyes were red with killing intent. Tang Zheng wanted to fight back, but he couldn't even move his fingers, let alone cast a spell. Killing Chu Chongyang was the best he could do. He did not regret it. If Chu Chongyang did not die today, he would definitely become a big problem for Tang Zheng in the future. He would be a serious threat to him. Moreover, Chu Chongyang had already made up his mind to kill him. Leaving him alive in this world, Tang Zheng was tired of living. Seeing Chu Mingxian closing in on Tang Zheng step by step, it was as if the god of death was slowly approaching him. An oppressive feeling of death instantly enveloped him. Stop! Suddenly, an explosive shout rang out, and a tall figure blocked in front of Tang Zheng, blocking Chu Mingxian without yielding an inch. This person was Qin Batian. Shock still remained on his face, but the determination between his brows did not decrease in the slightest as he stared at Chu Mingxian fearlessly. Chu Mingxian was forced to stop in his tracks and growled, "Qin Badian, scram." Qin Beixian's expression did not change as he said, "You can't kill him. He killed my father. I want to take revenge for him," Chu Mingxian said as he clenched his teeth. Qin Badian had already figured out the ins and outs of the matter. Chu Chongyang did not hesitate to use his identity as the patriarch to personally kill Tang Jing. However, his luck was bad and he was killed instead. Killing someone, "If you don't kill me, then I kill you." This was an extremely normal thing. When you kill others, you have to be prepared to be killed by others. This was the most basic awareness. Although I also feel regretful for your father's death, I am indebted to Tang Jing. I will not watch as he is killed, Qin Badian said resolutely. You want to become enemies with my Chu family? Chu Mingxuan's eyes turned cold as he asked. The corner of Qin Beixian's mouth curled up as he said, I do not want to become enemies with the Chu family. However, if anyone wants to kill Tang Jing, they can only do so by stepping over my body. The curve of Qin Beixian's mouth was an unspoken message. Once Chu Chongyang died, the Chu family would lose their pillar of support. The Chu family would immediately enter a period of decline, and might even be directly wiped off from this world. This was the competition between large families. The law of the jungle was cruel and realistic. Without Chu Chongyang, the Chu family was already like a tiger without its teeth. Qin Badian did not need to be afraid, so he had the courage and confidence to fight against Chu Mingxian. Chu Mingxian was a smart person and immediately understood the deep meaning behind this. His face turned ashen, but he was not willing to retreat and said, Whoever dares to stop me will die with that brat. Qin Badian did not move at all. The meaning of this was self-evident. Qin Badian had completely stood on the opposite side of the Chu family, and the expressions of everyone present changed at the same time. The people of the Chu family were furious. There was actually someone who dared to provoke the Chu family, while He Zi clenched his fists in excitement. Now that the Chu family was no longer powerful, he could snatch even more territory from the other party's hands and obtain even greater benefits. Kill! Chu Mingxian roared, and pounced towards Qin Badian. Qin Badian punched out, and there was a faint sound of wind and thunder. In the blink of an eye, the two sides had exchanged more than 100 moves. Qin Badian focused on defense, while Chu Mingxian only focused on attacking crazily. However, Chu Mingxian was still unable to break through Qin Beixian's defense, and his actions were useless. Chu Mingxian, you and I are both 6th-stage pre-celestial stage warriors, and you were heavily injured a few months ago and have yet to recover. Therefore, you are not my opponent, so there is no need to do useless things, Qin Badian advised. He did not take advantage of the situation to kill the other party. He was different from Tang Jing. He had too many fetters and was bound by too many formless rules, so he could not act recklessly. Chu Mingxian naturally understood that his skills were inferior, but the blow this time was too big, so he only focused on attacking, attempting to break through Qin Beixian's defense. However, Qin Beixian's defense was watertight, and there were no openings. Everything Chu Mingxian did was futile. Chu Mingxian, if you continue to force me, then I will not be polite anymore. Seeing the other party pestering him, even the clay figurine was a little angry. His anger was aroused, and he said with a gloomy face. His attack suddenly changed, becoming incomparably powerful. Chu Mingxian retreated step by step, and finally fell on his butt, looking battered and exhausted. Qin Beixian's fist stopped a millimeter away from Chu Mingxuan's forehead, and the wind from the fist made him unable to open his eyes. Give up, I don't want to kill you, Qin Badian persuaded earnestly. Chu Mingxuan's eyes looked like he wanted to eat someone, staring fixedly at Qin Badian, but he calmly accepted it and did not look askance. Qin Badian, from now on, you are the enemy of the Chu clan. We will definitely kill you. Chu Mingxian clenched his teeth and said fiercely. Come, I'll take whatever moves you have. Qin Badian shrugged and said indifferently. Chu Mingxian crawled up, pulled out the shooting sun arrow, and hugged Chu Chongyang's corpse. He led his subordinates in the direction of the Chu clan, and the atmosphere was incomparably bleak. Qin Badian crouched down and asked, Tang Jing, how are you? I'm fine, but I need time to recover. Tang Jing said weakly. He was indeed not heavily injured, and only suffered some light injuries. There was no danger to his life, but he still needed to rest for a few days. Qin Badian heard this and nodded, unable to conceal his shock. He praised, You killed Chu Chongyang, yet you are not heavily injured. Truly admirable. Tang Jing squeezed out a smile and said, This was all based on luck. Moreover, if you were not here, even if I killed him, it would still be difficult for me to escape death. You saved Hongqing's life, so this is what I should do. Qin Badian smiled. Help me put away the bow and arrows. Hey Z, quickly put it away. Qin Badian instructed. He had seen the power of the divine bow and arrows, so he naturally knew how precious they were. Hey Z hurriedly and carefully put away the bow and arrows. He held it with both hands, as if he was holding a sacred object. The few of them left, leaving behind only this tragic and messy battlefield. Although not many people had witnessed this life and death battle, the news of this battle was like snowflakes falling from the sky, quickly flying into the ears of those who were interested in the capital. This news caused the blood of the people involved to boil. In this world, how many people had not heard news of a martial scholar dying in battle? Most of the martial scholars died of natural causes. But today, a martial scholar had died, and he was even the head of the Chu family. These people were very clear about what this meant. Many people had already started to plan, preparing to take a bite out of the colossus that was the Chu family. This fellow had already lost his fangs, and did not pose much of a threat, so it was the best opportunity to divide and eat. The competition between the various clans and powers was extremely cruel. There was not the slightest bit of mercy to speak of. Every battle was a life and death battle. This huge scheme was immediately unfolded step by step. The various industries of the Chu family were completely attacked, and the powers that were hiding in the dark all raised their heads. In the past, they were all docile sheep, but now that they had revealed their fangs, they realized that they were all jackals, wolves, tigers, and leopards. Of course, the attention of the other main character quickly increased. Tang Zheng was originally famous in the capital circle. Back then, he had killed the pre-celestial stage expert of the Chu family, and then caused a ruckus at Yan Potion's birthday banquet. Furthermore, he had retreated unscathed, causing no one to dare underestimate him. Of course, Tang Zheng's identity as a cultivator caused him to become the focus of attention. It was just that no one expected that he would do such an earth-shattering feat in just a few days after returning to the capital, causing people to find it hard to digest. Many people's attitude towards Tang Jing quickly changed. Those who were originally prepared to secretly deal with Tang Jing immediately stopped and silently paid attention to Tang Jing. Chapter 461. Tang Zheng was brought back to Qin Baishan's residence. Li Hongqing was anxiously looking at Tang Zheng, who was lying on the bed, unable to move. She asked with concern, Tang Zheng, how did you become like this? Li Hongqing had been poisoned by the evil qi of the 1,000-year blood jade, and it was Tang Zheng who saved her life. Thus, she was extremely grateful to Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng squeezed out a smile and said, I'm fine. I'll be able to move again after a day of rest. He could already feel the true qi slowly being produced in his meridians. A day's time was enough for him to move again. Of course, to return to his peak state, there was still a period of time. Qin Badian looked at Tang Jing with a burning gaze. He still had some lingering fear in his heart, but he was also very excited. He sighed, "Tang Jing, this time you really did something big. The sky of the capital has been completely pierced by you. The balance has also been completely broken. I think it's going to set off a big storm. He wanted to kill me. If I had let him go, there would have been no end to it. I had no choice but to kill him." Tang Jing said. "Who knows how many people in the capital want to kill Chu Chongyang? At least the people from the other 3 families all wanted to kill him, but no one was able to do it. Yet you were able to do it. Your name will definitely resound like thunder in the future. However, this is definitely a big problem. Who knows how many people will come to find trouble with me in the future?" Tang Jing helplessly smiled bitterly. "Your identity as a cultivator means that you are destined to become the target of public criticism. Even if this matter did not happen, many people would still target you. However, Chu Chongyang's death is not entirely a bad thing. At least, many people who are not strong enough will not dare to have any ideas about you. In the capital, only the other large families will be a threat to you." Qin Badian was very clear about the depth of the water in the capital. Among the Yen family, the Song family, and the Ye family, who do you think will make a move on me first? Tang Jing asked. Qin Badian pondered for a moment before replying, "The Ye family has a close relationship with you and Yi Tianlei is an upright person. Shi and Feng Xinyang will definitely do their best to prevent the Ye family from becoming enemies with you." Tang Jing secretly nodded. This analysis was very reasonable. The Ye family would not fall out with him for the time being. Among the other 2 families, the Yen family is more powerful than the Song family. Therefore, if the Yen family makes a move, they will be the biggest threat to you. Tang Jing thought back to Yen Padian and Yen Qishan, this pair of father and son in the Great Master Realm, and his heart shivered. If they were to make a move, then no one in the capital would be able to resist them. The Song family has a grudge with me. Do you think the chances of them making a move are higher? Tang Jing asked curiously. The Song family has been recuperating for the past few years and has a good relationship with the other families. Recently, they have gradually revealed their fangs, and the Song family has already grown to become a big family second only to the Yen family. Furthermore, you have a grudge with them, so the chances of them making a move are not small. Furthermore, you killed Chu Chongyang and challenged the dignity of a few big families. If the Song family were to put you in a formation on the spot, then their prestige in the few big families would be even greater, and it would be enough to raise the level of the Song family. Tang Jing raised his eyebrows, and said with a smile that was not a smile, "Oh, in that case, I am the stepping stone for the Song family to advance." Qin Badian nodded, "Yes. But the Song family will also have some misgivings. After all, the strength you displayed this time was too dazzling, so they have to weigh whether or not they can get rid of you. Then it will depend on the courage of the Song family." Tang Jing said with a light smile. "Tang Jing, don't worry. You will stay with me for the next few days, and I will definitely do my best to protect you." Qin Badian said heroically. "This will only implicate you. Saying this is too distant. If it weren't for you, Hongqing's life would not have been saved, so this is what I should do. Moreover, your temper is very similar to mine. Just like when I was young, I wasn't afraid of anything. Just based on this, I will support you to the end." Qin Badian waved his hand and said resolutely. "That's right, Tang Jing. This is our sincerity, so don't reject it." Li Hongqing said with a light smile. Tang Jing was moved. As the saying goes, a friend in need is a friend indeed. Actually, his relationship with this couple was not that deep, but they were supporting him like this. This was equivalent to gambling their lives. He secretly made up his mind that once this matter was over, he would definitely find a way to repay them, so that they would not regret this decision. Ring ring ring. Suddenly, his cell phone rang. Your cell phone is ringing. Yi ding dang, do you want to pick it up? Li Hongqing took out the cell phone for him and asked. Pick it up. Tang Jing guessed that the news of Chu Chongyang's death must have spread, so Yi ding dang called. Tang Jing, how are you? After pressing the answer button, Yi ding dang's anxious voice floated over, almost as if she was crying. Tang Jing was stunned. He had known Yi ding dang for a long time, but he had never seen her cry, nor had he heard such a voice. His heart was filled with mixed feelings as he said, I'm fine. Nonsense, you still dare to say that you're fine. What did you do you know? You killed Chu Chongyang, how can you be fine? How are you? Are you seriously injured? Yi ding dang was on the verge of tears as she asked in a choked voice. Tang Jing did not know whether to laugh or cry. I'm really fine. Liar, you're lying to me. I don't care, no matter how injured you are, I have to go to see you. I have to see you immediately. Where are you? Yi ding dang roared. Li Hongqing also heard Yi ding dang's voice and quickly gave an address. Tang Jing repeated it, and immediately the sound of running came from the phone. Don't worry, I'll be there right away. Call me if you need anything. After that, Yi ding dang hung up the phone. Miss Yi really cares about you, Li Hongqing said with a smile. You're so charming. When can I attend your wedding? Tang Jing quickly said, I'm still a student. College students can also get married. Li Hongqing did not care. Tang Jing was speechless. A moment later, Yi ding dang rushed in as fast as lightning. When she saw Tang Jing lying on the bed, she threw herself at him with a whoosh. She hugged him and cried, You bastard, why did you do such a dangerous thing? You made me worried to death. Where are you hurt? As she spoke, her slender hand touched Tang Jing's hand, as if checking if the parts were still intact. It was too embarrassing to be touched by a beauty in front of so many people. Even if Tang Jing's skin was thick enough, he gradually blushed. He coughed and said, Don't touch me, I'm really fine. Nonsense, if you're fine, how can you not touch me? I know your temper. Yi ding dang firmly did not believe him. Her small hand went all the way down and Tang Jing's body tensed up. He felt that his most important part had been grabbed. Yi ding dang also immediately realized what was in her hand and let go of her hand as if she had been electrocuted. Her cheeks were red. Li Hongqing saw this and laughed. Tang Jing, Miss Yi really cares about you. Yi ding dang shyly lowered her head and fiercely glared at Tang Jing as if to say that it was all because of him that she made a fool of herself. Tang Jing felt wronged. I didn't do anything. It was clearly you who came and touched me. I was the one who suffered. Yi ding dang confirmed that his body parts were still intact and let out a sigh of relief. If you didn't lose an arm or a leg, then why can't you move? Did you suffer an internal injury? It can be considered an internal injury. I'll go and find the senior king of medicine. He must have a way. Yi ding dang had an idea and said. I don't remember. My medical skills are not bad. I can recuperate on my own. After a period of time, I will recover. Tang Jing refused. No, you're too careless. I must find the senior king of medicine to check on you before I can rest assured. Yi ding dang insisted. Tang Jing rolled his eyes and was helpless. Tang Jing, this time you did such an earth-shattering thing. Do you know what's the situation outside? Yi ding dang asked with lingering fear. Look at me. How can I know? The Ya family has been quarreling because of you. Yi Tianming thinks that they should deal with you immediately. He said that if you dare to kill Chu Chongyang today, you will dare to deal with the Ya family tomorrow. You are a cultivator. You are a bomb that can explode at any time. It's a cliché. Didn't he say the same thing last time? Tang Zheng did not take it seriously. You didn't do what you did last time. Of course, it's not the same thing. However, my parents argued for it, so the old man has not made a decision. Humph, if the Ya family really becomes your enemy, then I will withdraw from the Ya family. From then on, I will have nothing to do with them. Yi Dingdang gritted her teeth and said resolutely. Li Hongqing immediately gave her a thumbs up and praised, Miss Yi, you dare to love and hate. You are so bold. You are simply a role model among women. Yi Dingdang was embarrassed. She secretly glanced at Tang Zheng and said, I just can't stand them forgetting justice for the sake of profit. After a pause, she continued, not only the Ya family, I heard that the Yen and Song families are also quarreling. Chu Chongyang's death is equivalent to an atomic bomb explosion. The power is too great. Oh, so it seems that these two families will soon make a move against me. Humph, if one of them comes, I'll kill one. If two comes, I'll kill two. As long as I'm here, don't even think about harming you. Yi Dingdang said fiercely like a hen protecting its young. At this moment, the other two families were indeed very lively. The three generations of the Yen family were all gathered together, and even Yan Qingyi, who did not care about the affairs of the world, was present. Yan Qingyi was a monk, and had always been cultivating in the Daoist temple. Ever since Yan Potion's birthday banquet, she had stayed behind and built a Daoist temple in the Dragon Elephant Mountain. She usually cultivated here, and could also accompany Yan Podian. Yan Qingyi was dressed in a simple and elegant Daoist robe, and did not have the slightest bit of aura. She sat in the middle of the group with her eyes closed, and listened calmly to their endless discussions. Father, this Tang Zheng relied on his identity as a cultivator to actually kill Chu Chongyang. Such a person definitely cannot be left alive. I guess the martial sect will definitely make a move against him. We should make a move first, and right now is also the time when Tang Zheng is at his weakest. It is a heaven-sent opportunity for us, and it will be too late to regret it if others beat us to it. Last time in the Imperial City, I saw that Song Jinan wanted to kill Tang Zheng. I think that this time, he will definitely be impatient to make a move. Yan Qishan said. Chapter 462. Can't die, why? The others all looked at Yan Qingyi at the same time. Yan Qishan asked in surprise. Yan Qingyi's expression did not change, and said calmly, because there are more important things waiting for him in the future. The expressions of the few of them became strange, but only Yan Potion's expression became serious, and asked, Qingyi, did you sense something? When Yan Qishan and Yan Luyun heard this, their eyes instantly widened. Regarding Yan Qingyi, this was a huge secret of the Yan family, and outsiders had no way of knowing about it. Outsiders only thought that Yan Qingyi was a monk, and many of them were still regretting that such a beautiful woman who was born in a famous family was actually a monk. It was truly inconceivable. These people did not know that there was a very important reason why Yan Qingyi had become a monk. Yan Qingyi had been incomparably intelligent since she was young. She seemed to know many things that ordinary people thought were incomparably profound, and had great wisdom and comprehension ability. Yan Qingyi had refused to learn martial arts since she was young. Even if others ordered her to practice martial arts, she would never obey. Later on, it was left unsettled. Therefore, she did not have any martial arts at all. This was an anomaly in the Yan family. Yan Qingyi had an innate closeness to Daoist scriptures, unlike other girls who loved to dress up in fashion. Instead, she was immersed in Daoist scriptures all day long. In the end, unknowingly, she actually had a kind of epiphany. She had a kind of foresight ability. Of course, not everything could be foreseen, but on many important matters, she would have a trace of foresight. However, this kind of ability could be said to be heaven-defying and difficult to deal with. It was one of the biggest secrets of the Yen family, so Yen Padian would only agree if Yen Qingyi chose to become a monk. Before Yen Potion's birthday banquet, Yen Qingyi returned to the capital and told him that there would be a change in the birthday banquet, and that a person would appear out of nowhere. Later on, this matter was confirmed. The person who had appeared out of nowhere was Tang Zheng. Moreover, he had soared to the heavens at the speed of a rocket. At this point, Yen Padian was even more convinced of Yen Qingyi's ability to predict the future. It was a blessing for the Yen family to have such a person, but it could also be said to be a very dangerous thing. This kind of mysterious and miraculous thing could easily make people associate it with the miraculous abilities of Shuzhe. If a cultivator appeared in the Yen family, it would definitely not be a good thing for the Yen family. Perhaps they would meet with a calamity. Of course, if a family had someone who could predict the future, then many things could be arranged in advance. The early bird catches the worm, and this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Yen Qingyi said indifferently, there will be a great disaster for humanity in the future. Tang Zheng might be the one to turn the tide. Catastrophe. The three of them sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time. This was an important piece of news. Yen Padian asked in a deep voice, what disaster? Yen Qingyi shook his head, this is just a very vague feeling, I am not sure about the specifics for now, but this disaster concerns the life and death of millions of people. You're saying that Tang Zheng will be the savior of this disaster? Yen Qishan was bewildered. No matter how he listened to it, he felt that it was like a fairy tale. Yen Qingyi nodded solemnly. Yen Luyun had a complicated expression on his face. They were both young people, but why was the difference so great? He asked, what other calamities will there be in this world? Could it be World War III? If there is a world war, what's the use of him alone? Yen Qishan scoffed, obviously not believing him. I don't know either. In short, this is a disaster that concerns the survival of humanity. This is what I sensed, so it definitely won't be wrong. Yen Qingyi was extremely confident. Yen Qishan and Yen Luyun looked at Yen Padian at the same time. His two white eyebrows knitted together, and only after a long while did he say, could it be that the survival of humanity is ultimately decided by a cultivator? Yeah, this is too unbelievable. Yen Qishan also felt that it was inconceivable, moreover, it's impossible for the martial sect to let him go, right? Can he live until then? Yen Qingyi stopped talking and closed her eyes again. Perhaps she was too lazy to explain. Yen Padian did not force him, but his eyes kept changing and said, Qingyi, in the future, will this world no longer be dominated by martial artists? When Yen Qishan and Yen Luyun heard this question, their expressions suddenly changed, as if they had seen a ghost. Their eyes revealed shock, and Yen Qishan could not help but exclaim, how is this possible? Yen Qingyi still had her eyes closed and did not reply. Yen Padian understood clearly, this was because she did not know the answer to this question. The ability to predict the future was not enough to know everything, many things were just a trace of comprehension, a flash of inspiration. Yen Qishan shook his head, impossible, although a few cultivator experts have appeared, they can't mess up the overall situation, how can they make the martial artists lose their position as the ruler? Although Yen Luyun was the head of the four young masters of the capital, these things had completely exceeded his imagination, causing him to feel that his brain was not enough. Unless the cultivator returns. Yen Padian was silent for a long time, and said hesitantly, the cultivator has returned. The others cried out in alarm, and even Yen Qingyi's eyelids twitched a few times. Could it be that this world is really going to be in chaos? No one could answer Yen Qishan's question. Grandfather, what should we do now? Yan Luyun asked. Yan Podin stared deeply at his descendant, and said, regardless of whether or not the cultivator has returned, since Tang Zheng is going to play such a big role in the future, then the status of cultivators will definitely increase in the future, and with regards to Tang Zheng, the future savior, we have to rope him in even more. This will be of great benefit to us and the Yan family. The few of them nodded. If the future was really as Yan Qingyi had foreseen, this was indeed a good way to seize the initiative. If the Ya family and Tang Zheng cut off their relationship, wouldn't that be letting the cooked duck fly away? Yan Luyun said with some amusement. Yan Podin curled his lips and said disdainfully, don't think that just because Yi Xuanji broke through to the Grandmaster stage, he became so powerful. Back then, why was he unable to break through? This was related to his breadth of mind and vision, and his vision was only that big. He only focused on the present and could not see the future. Then this time, our Yan family has taken the initiative. Wouldn't that be a huge advantage? Yan Luyun said happily. Yan Qishan shook his head. Luyun, don't just look at the opportunity, this is opportunity and danger coexisting. At this moment, everyone is treating Tang Zheng as the target of public criticism, but the Yan family is on good terms with him. Do you know what this means? Yan Liuyun's expression changed slightly. Of course he knew what it meant. It meant that the Yan family would also become the target of public criticism and attract cannon fire. The few of them understood this logic and looked at Yan Podin. This question obviously required him, the head of the family, to make a decision. Yan Podin looked deeply at Yan Qingyi, and then, without any hesitation, he said, I believe in Qingyi's judgment, we must rope in Tang Zheng. Yan Podin set the tone, and the others no longer sang the opposite tune. Even if Yan Qishan still had reservations about Tang Zheng, he did not refute him. Yan Luyun asked, Grandfather, this time, Tang Zheng killed Chu Chongyang, and will definitely cause a crazy counterattack. What should we do? It's better to send charcoal in the snow than icing on the cake. Right now, it's Tang Zheng's most dangerous moment, so of course we have to be the ones to send charcoal in the snow. Qishan, go and inform Chu Mingxian not to seek revenge on Tang Zheng. Yan Podin arranged. Yan Qishan said worriedly, I'm afraid Chu Mingxian will not agree. Yan Podin laughed coldly, if you don't agree, at this moment, the Chu family no longer has anyone to rely on. Do you really want to suffer the calamity of extermination? Yan Qishan nodded as if he had understood something. The Chu family no longer had anyone to rely on. If they still did not know how to advance or retreat, then they would really die. Moreover, which great clan didn't die? If they didn't know how to endure and retreat, then they could only be eliminated by history. This was reality, and reality was just that cruel. Yan Qishan came to the Chu family with the order. At this moment, the Chu family was immersed in grief and anger. Chu Mingxian received Yan Qishan, and when Yan Qishan explained the purpose of his visit, the veins on Chu Mingxuan's forehead twitched, and he asked hysterically, why? This is the rule of the game. The loser has no right to ask why. Yan Qishan spoke bluntly without holding back. My father's corpse is not cold yet, and you're going to do this? Yan Qishan laughed disdainfully. Don't really think of yourself as a pitiful weakling. Which family is clean? Did the Chu family not do enough in the past? Moreover, I am doing this for your own good. Right now, no one in the Chu family is a match for Tang Zheng. If you continue to provoke him, you will only be courting death. Of course, Chu Mingxian knew that the other party was not lying, but at this moment, his mind was completely drowned by anger. He roared, so what if I'm courting death? I want Tang Zheng to die. Your father is no longer here. You should work even harder to manage the Chu family, and not let the Chu family be exhausted for nothing. Yan Qishan kindly reminded him. You don't need to worry about it. Scram, the Chu family doesn't welcome you. Chu Mingxian ordered him to leave. Yan Qishan said indifferently, I've said everything that needs to be said, it's up to you now. After saying that, he turned around and left with large strides. Just as he walked out of the door, he saw a few people walking towards him. It was actually Song Yu and his father, Song Hanjun, and with them was Chu Xiaofeng. The Chu family's young master's face was filled with fear as he rushed in a sorry state, almost colliding with Yan Qishan. Song Hanjun stopped in front of Yan Qishan and asked in bewilderment, Qishan, you came a step earlier than me, you are really well informed. You're not late either. I'll take my leave first. With that, Yan Qishan walked away with large strides. Song Hanjun looked at his back in shock, his eyelids twitching. Song Yu also looked at him suspiciously, and asked in a low voice, why did he leave in such a hurry? There must be something going on. Let's go in first. Song Hanjun said in a deep voice, and then quickly walked in. Chu Xiaofeng was already wailing loudly, and Chu Mingxuan's face was also filled with anger. Song Hanjuan's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately changed his expression. With a sorrowful expression, he said while choking with sobs, Brother Mingxian, I came late. I never thought that the patriarch of the Chongyang family would actually be killed by a villain. Chapter 463. Hearing that, Chu Mingxian cupped his hands and said, Thank you, Han Jun, for taking the time to come here. Unlike some people who saw that my father was in trouble, they came here to bully others. Song Hanjuan's eyebrows twitched, as if he had understood something. Could it be that Mingxian is talking about the Yan Qishan who just left? Chu Mingxian snorted angrily. Other than him, who else can it be? Yan family really thinks that they are the number one in the capital, and do not put anyone else in their eyes at all. In the past, the Yan family was powerful, and the Chu family relied on the Yan family. Later on, because of what happened at the birthday banquet, the two families developed a grudge, and the estrangement grew larger and larger. This time, the Yan family's decision had finally caused the two families to fall out, and Chu Mingxian finally had nothing to worry about. Hearing that, Song Hanjuan's heart trembled. He did not understand why the Yan family would make such a decision. Right now should be the best time to rope in the Chu family, or even annex the Chu family, but the Yan family did the opposite. Song Hanjun could not figure it out for the time being, but this did not stop him from being overjoyed. Since the Yan family had given up on this fat meat, the Song family had no reason to refuse. In these past few years, the Song family had worked hard and looked harmless, but in fact, they were secretly accumulating power, and their strength had already increased by a leap. If they could take advantage of this opportunity to annex the Chu family, it would be like adding wings to a tiger, and they could even stand on equal footing with the Yan family. Tianqing Song family, I really came to the right place this time. Song Hanjun was secretly happy in his heart, but he put on an expression of righteous indignation and shouted angrily, How preposterous, we are all great families in the capital, so we should be on the same side. Yan family actually took advantage of this opportunity to bully others. It is truly despicable. Not only is the Yan family bullying others, they are also supporting that brat Tang Jing. Who is that brat? He is a cultivator. I think the Yan family is preparing to become enemies with all the warriors in the world. Chu Mingxian gritted his teeth and said. Song Hanjuan's eyes became brighter and brighter. He thought to himself, could it be that Yan Padian has gone senile? They actually stood on the side of the Xiuzha on such a major issue. This was seeking their own destruction. If it weren't for the inappropriate occasion, Song Hanjun really wanted to look up to the sky and laugh 3 times. If this wasn't the heavens helping the Song family, then what was? Song Yu, on the other hand, was not so excited. Instead, she frowned and looked at her father, deep in thought. Mingxian, the Yan family is so perverse. It will definitely arouse public anger. You don't need to care about their attitude. This time, the head of the Chongyang family was killed by Tang Jing. What are you going to do? Song Hanjun asked. Revenge, a debt of blood must be paid in blood. We must kill that brat Tang Jing. Chu Mingxian said resolutely. Chu Xiaofeng abruptly raised his head. With a ferocious expression, he clamored, we must kill him. Tang Jing was his nightmare, and he could not get rid of it. Last time, he teamed up with Song Yu to trap Tang Jing, and was prepared to let him die in the martial arts assembly, but it did not work. He did not expect that the pillar of the Chu family would fall into Tang Jing's hands this time. However, Chu Xiaofeng was not at home earlier, and was with Song Yu, so he did not personally witness the battle just now. He suddenly came to a realization and asked, what kind of strength does Tang Jing have? How can he be a match for grandfather? Cultivators have many despicable and dirty methods. The old man only lost his life after falling into his scheme. Chu Mingxian said hatefully, but did not tell the truth. Regarding the specific details of the battle, Chu Mingxian had already issued a gag order, and no one present was allowed to mention it to outsiders. Therefore, the others only knew that Chu Chongyang had died at the hands of Tang Jing, but they did not know the details. In fact, many people did not believe that Tang Jing had killed Chu Chongyang with his true abilities, and that he must have relied on some kind of scheme of a cultivator to succeed. Although they were afraid of Tang Jing's methods, no one would compare Tang Jing's cultivation to a great master. At least, that was what Song Hanjun thought in his heart. Then there's no time to lose. Mingxian should take advantage of the opportunity to pursue and kill him, and use the brat's head as a sacrifice to the Chongyang family patriarch. Song Hanjun instigated. Chu Mingxian blinked his eyes, as if he was moved. He wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to chase after him. Moreover, Tang Jing was injured and could not move, so this was the best opportunity. However, he was not Qin Baishan's opponent for the time being, so he would not be able to gain any benefits from it. Song Hanjun saw through the clues and asked, Mingxian, could it be that there is something that is hard to say? Chu Mingxian already understood that without the help of the Yan family, he should get closer to the big tree that was the Song family. He might as well not hide it anymore, and said with righteous indignation, to be honest, ever since I was injured at Yan Potion's birthday banquet, I have yet to recover, and right now, Tang Jing is under Qin Baishan's protection, so I can't kill him. Qin Badian. Song Hanjun frowned. He actually got involved. He really doesn't know what's good for him. For Qin Badian to be able to gain a foothold in the capital, he naturally had his own abilities. However, his strength was still lacking compared to the few great clans, and when any clan wanted to completely destroy him, they would still have to pay a certain price. Therefore, he had survived between the cracks of the few great clans. Although it was difficult, it could still be considered a type of ability. Of course, Song Hanjun knew Qin Baishan's abilities, but he did not really care. With regards to the big plan of annexing the Chu family, if Qin Badian did not know what was good for him and became the tiger that stood in the way, Song Hanjun did not mind getting rid of Qin Badian earlier. Therefore, Song Hanjun said without hesitation, Mingxian, a single Qin Badian is not worth mentioning. Now that you are injured and have such a big family to work hard for, you can leave this matter to me. It can be considered as me doing something for the Chongyang family head. Chu Mingxian was so grateful that he cupped his fists and said, hardships reveal one's heart. Hanjun, you are the great benefactor of our Chu family. Song Hanjun smiled modestly, but a trace of complacency flashed past his eyes. He thought to himself, I am your benefactor now, and in the future, I will be your master, haha. Song Hanjun was swift and decisive, and immediately expressed that he wanted to leave and kill Tang Jing. Chu Xiaofeng volunteered and shouted, I'll go too. I want to kill that brat with my own hands. Back then, I didn't kill him, and I regret it. This time, I definitely can't let that brat live. After he finished speaking, his eyes flickered with flames of hatred, and his expression was sinister and terrifying. All right, Xiaofeng, you go together. When the time comes, I'll let you personally end that brat. Song Hanjun patted Chu Xiaofeng's shoulder and said cordially. Chu Mingxian did not object, and the three of them left the Chu family together. Song Hanjun and his son sat in their own car, and seeing that there were no outsiders, Song Yu finally could not hold it in and asked the question that had been stuck in her heart for a long time. Dad, the Yan family is not an idiot, why are they so abnormal this time, to actually help Tang Jing unexpectedly? Song Hanjun laughed unconcernedly. Yan Padian is muddle-headed, he really thinks that no one in the capital can control him, so he is becoming more and more unbridled. I don't think so. Yan Padian has been cautious for so many years, otherwise he wouldn't have the strength of the Yan family today. The Yan family has always had a close relationship with the Li Palace. Could it be that they received the instructions of the Li Palace? Song Yu guessed. Song Hanjun was shocked. Coincidentally, the car bumped and almost hit the back of the chair in front of him, scaring the driver so much that his heart jumped. You're saying that the Li Palace instructed the Yan family to rope in Tangjing? Song Hanjun asked in bewilderment. That's also my guess. Song Yu said uncertainly. Song Hanjun's expression became even more serious. He could not make up his mind, and said, I'll ask the old man first. He immediately dialed Song Jianan's number. After hearing his analysis, the other party said disdainfully, Do you think that the Li Palace will protect a cultivator? Ridiculous. Although the Li Palace was not like the martial sect who chased after cultivators with no regard for their lives, they were not friends with cultivators either. The martial sect viewed cultivators as a thorn in their side, and the Li Palace would definitely not go against the martial sect on this point. Moreover, I can guess that the Azure Dragon Hall will definitely stand on the side of the martial sect when it comes to cultivators. Hearing the other party's confident words, Song Hanjun and Song Yu's expressions changed slightly. Song Yu asked, Grandfather, both the Li Palace and the martial sect have people walking in the world, why has the Azure Dragon Hall only heard of their names and never seen them? The Azure Dragon Hall has always been a legend. Not to mention you, even I have never seen anyone from the Azure Dragon Hall. Song Jianan laughed. Song Hanjun and Song Yu looked at each other, and thought at the same time. If that was the case, then the Azure Dragon Hall had always existed in legends, and no one had ever seen its members. Could it be that this was a fabricated organization? Hearing the silence of the two, Song Jianan chuckled, as if he had guessed their thoughts, and said, The Azure Dragon Hall really exists, but its strength is unfathomable. It is said that even if the Li Palace and the martial sect were to work together, they would still not be a match for the Azure Dragon Hall. What? So powerful? The two of them turned pale with fright. In their eyes, the Li Palace and the martial sect were already existences that could not be fought against. This Azure Dragon Hall was actually even more powerful than these two organizations combined. Although the Azure Dragon Hall does not appear in this world, how can the matters of this world escape its eyes? Therefore, you don't have to worry, the Li Palace will not instruct the Yan family to rope in Tangjing. This is definitely Yan Potion's opportunistic method, but this method would cause the Yan family to suffer a calamity. Haha, the heavens are helping me. This capital is bound to be dominated by my Song family. Song Jianan laughed wildly with pride. Song Hanjun and Song Yu heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. The bit of doubt in Song Yu's heart also disappeared into thin air, and instead, a kind of excitement and pleasure gradually assaulted her heart. He had known Tang Jing for a very long time. Back then, when he first met Tang Jing at the ordinary balance courtyard, he could still have a high and mighty attitude. However, this kind of high and mighty attitude did not last long, because on the problem of Yi Dingdang, Tang Zheng had completely defeated him. Although he knew that it was just a prank, just a play, he did not expect that the play would become true and he would be utterly defeated. After that, the two sides moved to the capital, but not long after Tang Zheng arrived in the capital, he shocked the world with a single feat. Although the two sides did not clash again, Tang Zheng had completely suppressed his limelight. This caused Song Yu, who had always been high and mighty, to try and fail. He and Chu Xiaofeng had used the spirit transformation powder pill to trap Tang Zheng, but it was to no avail. At that time, he had experienced a feeling called fear, a feeling that he had never felt before. He secretly swore in his heart that he would definitely get rid of this person. Chapter 464. As night fell, Tang Zheng lay alone on his bed, looking out the window at the sky. The sky was very dark and the haze was very thick. It seemed like it was going to rain, washing away the haze that made it difficult to breathe. Tang Zheng stayed at Qin Beishan's house to recuperate. His limbs had already regained the ability to move, but his internal energy had not yet recovered. He could be considered to be powerless. His body was empty and his qi was as weak as a wisp of smoke. A martial scholar is really not that easy to kill. I almost lost my life. He sighed inwardly. Are you asleep? A weak voice came from next door. This was Yi Dingdang's voice. She had stubbornly stayed and turned off her phone, not letting anyone in the house find her. I'm asleep. Tang Zheng said. You're still promising me after sleeping. Hang, you never say a proper word all day. Yi Dingdang ridiculed. Yes, that's my temper. It seems like I won't be able to change it in this lifetime. It's not too late for you to regret leaving. I said that I would protect you. How could I leave? Hang, no matter who it is, I'll kill one if one comes, I'll kill two if two come. Yi Dingdang said righteously. Tang Zheng's lips curled into a smile. To have such a close female friend was undoubtedly one of life's greatest blessings. He did not know what he had done to deserve this. Go to sleep. You're a good student, so you can't skip class like me. Tang Zheng advised. I won't leave until you're well. It's almost time for the final exams. I'm not afraid. Don't think that you're the only smart one. I'm not stupid either. Yi Dingdang said proudly. Then let's have a bet on whose final exam score is higher. Yi Dingdang angrily said, I won't bet with you. I've bet with you so many times before and lost every time. I won't be fooled again. Thinking about their previous bet, the two of them could not help but smile. Pang! A loud noise rang out. It was particularly sudden and ear-piercing in the silent night. Tang Zheng immediately sat up and exclaimed, something's wrong. The door was suddenly pushed open and a graceful figure stood in front of Tang Zheng to protect him. Yi Dingdang cautiously said, someone broke in. I heard it. It's in the front yard. Tang Zheng said with a solemn expression, it's not even night yet, and you can't wait to kill me already? Don't worry, I'm here. Yi Dingdang patted her chest and said fearlessly. Tang Zheng smiled knowingly. Then I'll leave my life in your hands. Yi Dingdang heard this and her eyes widened. Her confidence soared as she excitedly said, don't worry, with this heroine here, I won't let anyone take advantage of you. Tang Zheng smiled as he looked at her. He found that he seemed to have returned to the time when he was ordinary balance. Ever since he came to Beijing, there were too many strong local tyrants. Yi Dingdang also seemed to be a lot more reserved. But at this moment, her confidence made people's eyes light up. Although this kind of confidence was a bit overestimating one's abilities, Tang Zheng felt that he liked it very much. A warm current flowed through his body. Not long after, there was the sound of fierce fighting in the front yard. Just by listening to the sound, one could tell how dangerous this battle was. It's an expert. Tang Zhang's expression became serious. How high of an expert? Yi Dingdang asked in confusion. An expert higher than you. Yi Dingdang's face revealed a difficult expression. But she immediately calmed down and said, so what if it's an expert? This heroine will still cut him down with my sword. With a schwa sound, she pulled out a cold glinting sword from somewhere. The sword was still trembling. You know swordsmanship? Tang Zheng asked in astonishment. He had never seen her use a sword before. Yi Dingdang's face turned red as she said, before I left, I took a sword from home. Tang Zheng smiled. The meaning of these words was obvious. Although Yi Dingdang was already a prenatal martial artist, he really didn't know any swordsmanship. If I had a suitable swordsmanship, I could teach it to her. But the heaven-flying immortal swordsmanship doesn't suit her. Tang Zheng said regretfully. As soon as this thought appeared, a set of swordsmanship appeared in his mind. Tang Zheng was shocked. He couldn't help but cry out, wind-chasing swordsmanship. Wind-chasing swordsmanship, what kind of swordsmanship is this? Yi Dingdang curiously asked when she heard this. But she discovered that Tang Zheng's eyes were staring in front of him as if he was stunned. She quickly waved her hand in front of his eyes and called out, Hey, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. Tang Zheng regained his calm. It was clear that this set of wind-chasing swordsmanship was related to Qi Yu's heart. Maybe it was that thought from before that touched Qi Yu's heart, so this set of swordsmanship appeared out of nowhere. He knocked away her hand and said, I have a set of swordsmanship called wind-chasing swordsmanship. It is very suitable for you. Yi Dingdang's eyebrows danced as she said, Really? The Jade Woman's Heart Sutra you gave me last time was very powerful. This wind-chasing swordsmanship shouldn't be too bad, right? Tang Zheng nodded. The swordsmanship recorded in Qi Yu's heart naturally wouldn't be too bad. He didn't know the origin of this set of swordsmanship, but this set of swordsmanship was very interesting. It only required sword moves and didn't even need Qi to activate it. This meant that even if a normal person was familiar with the moves and used them, the power would not be small. At least in Tang Zheng's eyes, the power of this set of swordsmanship was not small. When Tang Zheng finished teaching this set of swordsmanship, Yi Dingdang's eyes lit up with joy. Although she didn't understand swordsmanship, she still had a bit of eyesight. She understood the value of this set of swordsmanship and couldn't help but happily say, I really like this set of swordsmanship. You should be the only two people in this world that know this set of swordsmanship. Tang Zheng said. Yi Dingdang's eyebrows danced as she excitedly jumped up. What kind of gift did a woman like the most? The one and only gift in this world that no one else had. Wasn't this set of swordsmanship the most suitable gift? You only taught me. Yi Dingdang stared with her big round eyes and asked. Yes. Even Fang Shishir doesn't know it. Tang Zheng nodded. Wow. Yi Dingdang excitedly threw herself at Tang Zheng. With a ping sound, she threw him onto the bed. Tang Zheng was currently not her opponent. He was pressed under her body and inhaled her fragrance. He awkwardly said, Are you trying to take advantage of me when I'm not paying attention and throw yourself at me? Yi Dingdang immediately blushed. She stood up straight and glared at him. What nonsense are you thinking about all day? Don't just talk. Practice your swordsmanship first. Tang Zheng urged. Okay. Yi Dingdang immediately began to move. Her sword moved according to her heart. Shwa, 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 her sword was like the wind. The wind rose and the sword chased after the wind until only a sword's shadow was left. What a fast sword! Yi Dingdang was dumbfounded. She clearly did not expect the sword in her hand to be so fast. Moreover, she felt that there was no internal strength flowing. This was the power of a fixed move. Why is the swordsmanship so strange? Yi Dingdang asked in astonishment. Tang Zheng was speechless. He had only explained it once and she was able to practice the swordsmanship to such a degree. It was truly shocking. If she was not a martial arts genius, then it could only be because of the mysteriousness of the swordsmanship. Could it be that this set of swordsmanship can be learned quickly and at such a terrifying speed? Tang Zheng was shocked by this thought. This kind of swordsmanship could be called a peerless swordsmanship. It was a treasure that many people coveted. No matter how powerful a set of swordsmanship was, it was too difficult to learn. It was something that ordinary people could only dream of. But a set of swordsmanship was not only powerful, it did not have any requirements for the cultivator. Moreover, it could be learned in one lesson. How terrifying was that? It could instantly turn a person into an expert. This is too abnormal. Tang Zheng smacked his lips, unable to let go of the shock in his heart for a long time. As expected of the swordsmanship in Qi Yu's heart. This is a peerless treasure. I'm afraid its value is even greater than the heaven-flying immortal swordsmanship. It was true that the heaven-flying immortal swordsmanship was powerful. As for whether it was more powerful than the wind-chasing swordsmanship, Tang Zheng was unable to determine. However, one thing was certain. The heaven-flying immortal swordsmanship was not something that ordinary people could learn. On the other hand, the wind-chasing swordsmanship could be learned by anyone. The difference in value was like heaven and earth. However, the wind-chasing swordsmanship was not simple. If one did not know the sword moves and profoundness within it, they would not be able to learn it. Therefore, he was not afraid that others would secretly learn it during a battle. Tang Zheng was inexplicably excited. He did not know what other treasures Qi Yu had in his heart. Seeing Tang Zheng in a daze and not speaking, Yi Dingdang nudged him and asked, "Hey, why are you in a daze again? How come I didn't notice this before?" Tang Zheng came back to his senses and solemnly said, "The wind-chasing swordsmanship must not be casually taught to outsiders. Do you understand?" "Of course, I'm not an idiot." Yi Dingdang rolled her eyes. She did not think that this swordsmanship was too precious and could not be taught to outsiders. Rather, this was the only swordsmanship that Tang Zheng had taught her. In this world, it was unique to her. How could she be willing to share it with others? Boom! Suddenly, a loud sound from outside interrupted the two's thoughts. The ground trembled and the two jumped in fright. Tang Zheng hurriedly said, "Let's go out and take a look." The two of them walked out of the room and saw that the courtyard was in a mess. A large portion of the courtyard walls had collapsed and dust filled the air. In the middle of the mess stood two people, Qin Badian and Song Hanjun. Qin Baishan's mouth was dripping with blood. His clothes had been cut in several places and he appeared to be in a sorry state. Song Hanjuan's aura was even stronger as he held a large blade in his hand. "Qin Badian, you are not my opponent. If you want to seek death, then I will fulfill your wish today," Song Hanjun said with a murderous aura. Qin Badian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and arrogantly said, "Song Hanjun, as long as I am here, you can forget about touching a single hair on Tang Zheng's head." "Reckless fool, what benefits did Tang Zheng give you to make you so dead set on following him?" Qin Badian coldly snorted but did not reply. Song Hanjun was preparing to make another move when he saw Tang Zheng standing at the entrance from the corner of his eyes. His eyes narrowed as he roared with killing intent, "Tang Zheng, quickly come and accept your death. Tang Zheng, leave quickly. I will block him first." Qin Badian leaped, blocking Song Hanjuan's path as he shouted. Chapter 465. Song Hanjun made a feint and dodged Qin Baishan's attack as the cold glint of the blade in his hand shot towards Tang Jing. Qin Badian turned pale with fright as he hurriedly shouted for him to stop, but it was already too late. Song Hanjun's move was a killing move, and if it hit Tang Jing, even if he didn't die, he would be heavily injured. Song Hanjun was determined to win. With Tang Jing's current physique, there was no way for him to dodge, and he could only watch as the large blade slashed towards him. Shwa! A ray of sword light rose from his side and met the blade of the saber. It was fast and accurate and tapped on the body of the saber. A burst of skillful power suddenly erupted, and the saber was deflected to the side, missing the target. Song Hanjun was shocked as he didn't expect that this sure-kill attack would actually miss because of Yi Dingdong's obstruction. Qin Badian rejoiced as he leapt in front of Tang Jing to protect him, glaring at Song Hanjun like a tiger eyeing its prey. Song Hanjun ignored him as he stared at Yi Dingdang and said, "Yi Dingdang, could it be that you also want to be my enemy and the Song family's enemy?" Yi Dingdang proudly said, "You want to kill Tang Jing, so that means you are my enemy and I am your enemy. Hang, don't think that just because you are Yi Tianlei's daughter that I won't dare to touch you. Yi Tianlei is only a first-grade Xiantian realm cultivator and is weak by himself. Even if I hurt you, he can't do anything to me." Song Hanjun said confidently as he obviously didn't put Yi Tianlei in his eyes. Although Yi Tianlei was one of the top 2 in the Ya family, compared to the other second-generation disciples, his strength was the weakest, so Song Hanjun didn't think much of him. "Then let's give it a try. Let's see if the sword in my hand is weak." Yi Dingdang bit her lip and refused to back down. At this time, Song Yu and Chu Xiaofeng also rushed in from the outside. When they saw Yi Dingdang, Song Yu's face flashed with displeasure, and then looked at Tang Jing hiding behind Yi Dingdang, and resentment appeared in her eyes. "Dad, don't hurt Dingdang. Our target is Tang Jing," Song Yu advised. Song Hanjun looked at his son meaningfully and said, "I cannot hurt her, but she must immediately scram away from me, otherwise the blade in my hand will not recognize her." Song Yu hurriedly advised, "Dingdang, come over here quickly. Tang Jing is a cultivator, not a kind person. He's not like us. Don't be fooled by him." Yi Dingdang didn't appreciate it at all and coldly said, "Kind people? Humph, I think you're not kind people. If you want to stand up for the Song family, then you must first defeat the sword in my hand. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Song Hanjun said disdainfully. Seeing that he was about to attack, Song Yu advised again, "Dingdang, you've been deceived by Tang Jing. He's our public enemy. There's no benefit in being with him. There's no benefit in being with you. Besides, Song Yu, I have nothing to do with you. I don't need you to persuade me." Yi Dingdang didn't appreciate it at all. She was already annoyed with the other party, so at this moment, she naturally didn't have a good expression. Chu Xiaofeng coldly watched from the sidelines. His face was filled with resentment. He coldly snorted and said, "Young Master Song really has tender feelings for the fairer sex. What's the use of having this kind of blind and stupid woman? It's better to kill them both." Song Yu was extremely disappointed. At the beginning, he had an indifferent attitude towards Yi Dingdang. But after his repeated failures, his interest towards Yi Dingdang grew. In the end, he made up his mind to take her for himself. But it seemed that this goal would be extremely difficult to achieve. Song Hanjun saw his son's expression and murderously said, "Yi Dingdang, since you don't know what's good for you, then don't blame me for being impolite. How many moves do you think you can take from me?" Yi Dingdang raised her head and jokingly asked, "Then how many moves do you think you can take to defeat me?" "Huh, you still want to use a few moves. Good, you really won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Then I'll help you. Within 10 moves, you will definitely fall. I want you to watch with your own eyes as Tang Jing dies in front of you." Song Hanjun wildly laughed. Ha, then let's make a bet. Yi Dingdang said. Bet? Bet on what? Bet that you won't be able to take me down within 10 moves. Song Hanjun was stunned for a moment, then immediately began to laugh loudly. This was truly the biggest joke in the world. Yi Dingdang was a Hotian realm martial artist and Song Hanjun was indeed a Xiantian realm martial artist. There was an insurmountable chasm between the two. This was a principle that any martial artist would understand. That was why Song Hanjun was so confident. In fact, in his opinion, he would be able to defeat Yi Dingdang within 5 moves. Saying that he would be able to defeat her within 10 moves was already giving him face. The others looked at Yi Dingdang in disbelief. Qin Badian hurriedly stopped her. Miss Yi, you must not let your guard down. With me here, it won't be easy for him to kill Tang Tangjing. Yi Dingdang glanced at him. Qin Baishan's body was already covered in wounds. It was obvious that he was not Song Hanjun's opponent. If the two of them continued to fight, then Qin Badian might even lose his life. This point was obvious to anyone with eyes, but Qin Badian still did not hesitate. This kind of spirit was worthy of respect. Tang Zheng's heart trembled as he persuaded, Mr. Qin, you have already done so much for me. There is no need to throw your life away. If I really am destined to die, then I have nothing to say. Qin Badian retorted, no, I said that I will protect you, so I will definitely protect you. I, Qin Badian, may not be a powerful character, but my words are like nails. Ha, Qin Badian, you really have a backbone and are loyal to your friends. After I take care of Tang Jing, I will naturally take care of you. Don't think that you are a big shot. The reason why you can stand firm in the capital is because we can't be bothered to take care of you. If we really wanted to take care of you, we could easily crush you to death. Song Hanjun said with disdain. Come then. Qin Badian stepped forward. Yi Dingdang hurriedly stopped him. Song Hanjun, don't change the topic. I bet that you won't be able to defeat me within 10 moves. Do you dare to bet with me? You can't be feeling guilty, right? So the Song family is only so-so. Song Hanjun's eyebrows twitched. What do I not dare to bet with you? Since you are so intent on sending yourself to death, then I will fulfill your wish. However, I am not prepared to kill you. If you lose, then you will accompany my son tonight. Accompany Song Yu. The meaning was too obvious. Yi Dingdang's face flushed red as she glanced at the father and son pair. She did not expect that he would raise such a condition. Song Yu was slightly startled as she looked at her father. She suddenly realized that Yi Dingdang could already be considered as his inner demons. If he could not obtain her and get rid of this inner demons, then his future martial path would be filled with difficulties. If he could get rid of this inner demons, then his future cultivation would be twice the result with half the effort. As someone who had been through this before, Song Hanjun was clearly very experienced. When Tang Jing heard this condition, his eyes flashed with anger as he immediately rejected, No, I won't bet with you. If you want to kill me, then do it. Tang Jing, I still thought that you were a little man who hid behind a woman. I never thought that you still had some backbone. Song Hanjun said with ridicule. Chu Xiaofeng sarcastically said with bad intentions, What backbone does he have? He only knows how to hide behind others. Chu Xiaofeng, don't make sarcastic remarks. You know very well who is usually hiding behind others. Without the Chu family, what are you? How could Yi Dingdang tolerate her beloved being humiliated? She immediately retorted. Chu Xiaofeng was poked in the back and his face was as red as a monkey's butt. He was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices as he roared, I see that you are arrogant now, but in a moment you will know how to beg for mercy. Tang Jing turned a deaf ear to these sarcastic remarks. He tugged at Yi Dingdong's sleeve and advised in a low voice, "Don't be impulsive. You go first, I have a way to escape." Yi Dingdong rolled her eyes at him and said, "What way do you have to escape? Now you want to lie to me, do you think I am so easy to fool? But the stakes are too high. You don't need to fall into it." Tang Zheng was really worried about her. After all, the difference in cultivation between the two sides was too great. Yi Dingdong shrugged and said without fear, "If the stakes are not high, how can it be fun? Could it be that you have so little confidence in me that you are afraid that I will lose? Song Hanjun is not an ordinary person," Tang Zheng said with hesitation. Yi Dingdong stared at him, "Then I am not an ordinary person. Moreover, didn't you just teach me the wind-chasing sword technique? This is a good opportunity for Song Hanjun to test it out." Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. He had just imparted the wind-chasing sword technique to her on a whim and she was actually so confident. He did not know if he should say that his heart was too big. Could it be that you have no confidence in your own sword technique? Yi Dingdong stared at him and asked. Tang Zheng felt bitter. Although he could see that the wind-chasing sword technique was not an ordinary technique, Yi Dingdong had just demonstrated it once. If she were to face an opponent like Song Hanjun, Tang Zheng did not have the confidence that she could last more than 10 moves. If she lost, then her loss would be too great. "Humph, since you have no confidence in me, then I will let you see my strength today. Moreover, you have saved me before, so today I will save you once. I will let you know that I, Yi Dingdong, am not an ungrateful person." Yi Dingdong pouted and vowed. "What are you two whispering to each other for? Do you not want to agree to this condition? Fine, then there is no need for us to continue talking. I will directly deal with you two," Song Hanjun said with a murderous look. "I promise you," Yi Dingdong said without fear, "but I also have a condition. If you lose, then scram as far away as you can. Don't have any ideas about Tang Zheng. Ha, this kind of situation will never happen." Song Hanjun laughed. "You don't dare to agree to this condition, right?" Yi Dingdong curled her lips and said with disdain. "What is there to be afraid of, I promise you," Song Hanjun said with a smile, as if Yi Dingdong really was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, allowing him to knead her however he wanted. Actually, Song Hanjun agreed to this bet because he wanted Yi Dingdong to willingly accompany Song Yu. This would not only get rid of Song Yu's inner demons, but it would also shut the Ya family's mouth. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Moreover, he would not suffer any losses. It was a sure-win situation. Now that things have come to this, there was no way to change it. Chapter 466. Tang Zheng was at his wit's end, and Qin Badian was powerless to stop him, so he anxiously said, "Tang Zheng, what do we do now? If Miss Yi loses, that would be terrible." Tang Zheng wanted to shout to stop him, but it was of no use. Moreover, this would only distract Yi Dingdong, so the only thing he could do now was to hope for a miracle to happen. Will there be a miracle? The blade light was like a waterfall, as if silver from the 9 heavens was pouring down in torrents, drawing out a streak of white light as it struck towards Yi Dingdong's head like lightning. Dang! A metallic sound rang out. Yi Dingdong's sword had appeared out of nowhere and blocked the opponent's large blade, causing sparks to fly. Song Hanjun frowned slightly. The blade retracted like a spring, but the blade did not retract too much, and then attacked again with the force of a thunderbolt. Between retracting and attacking, it was extremely fast. Yi Dingdong clenched her teeth, her delicate cheeks flushed red, but there was no fear in her eyes, only determination. Shwa! Her long sword turned around, narrowly blocking the large blade. The angle was extremely crafty, and it came and went like a ghost. 2 moves. Yi Dingdang finally blurted out 3 words, while Song Hanjun's face darkened, as black as the sky before the storm. What's going on? Such crafty moves were blocked by this little girl. Who knows what that old fox Yi Xuanji taught her, to have such a miraculous effect. However, her strength is still too weak, wanting to last 10 moves, dream on. Song Hanjun's heart hardened, and with a low roar, his hands flew, and the blade light followed like a shadow, following closely behind. Yi Dingdang did not even dare to breathe loudly, only staring at the large blade that was moving like lightning. She repeatedly raised the sword in her hand, either flicking, thrusting, or lifting. A miracle happened. Her movements were not as smooth as flowing water. However, that ordinary-looking long sword in her hand actually erupted with a strange power. Streaks of sword light streaked across the air. Ping, 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 ping. Not a single blade struck Yi Dingdang's body. Among them, the most dangerous slash had already arrived in front of Yi Dingdang's forehead, but that sword had mysteriously appeared and disappeared to block this attack. It was extremely dangerous. 7 moves. Yi Dingdang's eyes exploded with a resplendent light as her confidence soared. In reality, she was only relying on a single breath of air and passion to make this bet. This was because she understood that this was the only way to force Tang Jing to agree. She would then be able to find a sliver of a chance to let Tang Jing escape. If not, with just Qin Badian, none of them would be able to gain any benefits today. Although it was more strenuous for her to use the wind-chasing swordsmanship, the power of the wind-chasing swordsmanship still erupted. Although the wind-chasing swordsmanship did not require inner strength or jinqi to control, it relied on the human body's muscles and strength to achieve many unimaginable reactions. This was even more demanding on the human body, so when one was not familiar with the swordsmanship, it would be very challenging to execute. Yi Dingdang had passed the test. She had not fully displayed the power of the wind-chasing swordsmanship, but she had already received 7 moves from Song Hanjun. With victory in sight, Yi Dingdang clenched her teeth even tighter. She was in high spirits and her eyes were filled with determination. The others were dumbfounded by this scene. Song Yu and Chu Xiaofeng were dumbfounded, their mouths stuffed with a duck egg. How is this possible? Did he go easy on her? This guess was immediately denied. Song Hanjun was not such a person. Furthermore, winning this bet would greatly benefit his son, so he would not joke about Song Yu's future. Qin Badian was a Xiantian realm expert, so his eyesight was not ordinary. He stared at Yi Dingdang thoughtfully and thought to himself, is this swordsmanship from the Ya family? How come I've never heard of it before? This swordsmanship is definitely not simple. A large family truly has a deep foundation. Tang Zhang's eyes narrowed into slits. He had already determined that the wind-chasing swordsmanship was extraordinary, but he did not expect it to be so miraculous. If it was Yi Dingdang's true strength, she would definitely be defeated within 5 moves. But with the wind-chasing swordsmanship, she had actually withstood 7 moves without showing any signs of weakness. This kind of expert was simply too terrifying. The things in Qi Yu's heart are indeed treasures. If I could take out all the good things in it, it would be an enormous treasure. Tang Jing thought to himself. What swordsmanship is this? Song Hanjun had also noticed some clues. He could be considered knowledgeable, but he had never seen or heard of this swordsmanship before. If it was a swordsmanship from the Ya family, then he had never heard of it. If the Ya family had such a powerful swordsmanship, then everyone would have known about it. Wind-chasing swordsmanship. Yi Dingdang's face flashed with pride as the corners of her lips curled up. Wind-chasing swordsmanship. Song Hanjun was certain that he had never heard of this name before. Who taught you? Yi Dingdang's brows jumped as she disdainfully said, why should I tell you? Song Hanjun flew into a rage. Since you still want to show off, then I won't be polite. Who told you to be polite? Yi Dingdang retorted. Was Song Hanjun being polite? Of course not. He wished that he could defeat Yi Dingdang in one move. That way, he would truly be mighty. The Song family's reputation would also surpass the Ya family's. But things did not go as he wished. He used all of his strength, but it was all for naught. Humph, I don't believe this. Song Hanjuan's eyes released a terrifying light as he roared, "Watch my blade." Whoosh! The air in all directions was completely stirred up by this move. The wind rose and the clouds surged. There was a sudden flash of wind and thunder, as if a bolt of lightning was descending. The power of this move had not yet been used up. The other two moves came one after another. The power of these three moves overlapped as they attacked Yi Dingdang with a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Yi Dingdang's face was a bit pale, but she did not retreat an inch. Relying on the 3-foot-long sword in her hand, she continuously attacked. Every move was fast, ruthless, and accurate. Dang, dang, dang. Sparks flew everywhere as the sound of air exploding rang out from all directions. The stones embedded in the ground broke free from the bindings of the earth and flew up into the air, sending sand and stones flying. Yi Dingdang was in the center of the storm, but she did not move at all. She was like a sea-stabilizing needle. Move after move, her tension and relaxation were measured. She had the demeanor of an expert. Pooh! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Yi Dingdang's face became deathly pale. But her legs seemed to have grown roots as they pierced into the ground and did not move an inch. Everything returned to calmness. Yi Dingdang's mouth gradually rippled. She had succeeded. A miracle had really happened. In a situation that everyone thought was impossible, she had actually withstood 10 moves. Tang Zheng had been saved. You lost. Her red lips slightly opened as Yi Dingdang faintly spat out these 3 words. She let out a sigh of relief in her heart as she revealed a relieved expression. Song Hanjuan's eyes widened in anger as he roared in disbelief, "Impossible." The impossible had become possible. This was a miracle. Yi Dingdang had created a miracle. She had not only relied on the wind-chasing sword art, but more importantly, her courage and her affection for Tang Zheng. All of these added together to support her. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. How could I not defeat you in 10 moves? Song Hanjun was furious as his eyes burned with anger. Suddenly, an ominous glint appeared in his eyes. His figure flashed as he charged towards Yi Dingdang. His thick broadsword slashed towards Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdang had relied on her astonishing willpower to withstand these 10 moves. Once the 11th move was used, she would definitely lose. She raised the 3-foot-long sword, but the power was completely different from before. Kacha! The sword broke and the thick blade struck Yi Dingdang's chest. The sound of bones breaking suddenly rang out as a large mouthful of blood spurted out from Yi Dingdang's mouth. She was like a kite with a broken string as she flew backwards. No one had expected Song Hanjun to shamelessly make a move after losing the bet. The entire hall was shocked. Ding dang! Tang Zheng rushed out. His steps were a bit shaky, but he still managed to catch Yi Dingdang before she hit the ground. He staggered back a few steps before stopping. However, he did not care about himself as he impatiently asked, "Dingdang, how are you?" Yi Dingdang opened her eyes and smiled faintly. She stared at Tang Zheng, her eyes filled with satisfaction and longing. She stammered, "I did my best." A stream of hot tears rushed into Tang Zheng's eyes. His voice was a bit choked as he hurriedly nodded and said, "I know." You did very well. You won the bet and saved me. In the past, it was always you who saved me from danger. This time, I finally saved you. Yi Dingdang said with a smile, but her eyelids quickly closed. Tang Zheng turned pale with fright. He hurriedly shook her and shouted, "Dingdang, you can't sleep. You have to hold on. I'm so tired. I want to sleep." Yi Dingdang murmured as if she was sleep-talking. "Your embrace is so warm. I want to lie in your embrace forever. I told you to lie down. Don't sleep. You can lie down for as long as you want." Tang Zheng was really flustered. He was out of his wits. Originally, victory was in sight, but after a series of twists and turns, it turned out like this. No matter how much he calculated, he did not expect this. "Then I'll lie down, for a long time, for a long time." Yi Dingdang closed her eyes. Tang Zheng seemed to have gone crazy. His eyes were bloodshot as he roared, "Dingdang, you can't die. You haven't beaten me yet. Didn't we make a bet? You have to beat me and then I have to admit in front of everyone that you're better than me. You haven't done this yet. Nothing can happen to you." Tears welled up in his eyes. The heavens seemed to sense his sorrow. A bolt of lightning suddenly lit up in the dark clouds. Then, the sky was completely filled with lightning. It was as if the lightning wanted to tear the sky apart. Boom! The thunder rumbled and shook the world. The earth seemed to tremble. Whoosh! The majestic rain fell from the sky, as if the heavens were crying. Tang Zheng was instantly drenched like a drowned rat. The rain and tears mixed together, and the salty taste slipped into his mouth and covered his eyes. Ah! Suddenly, he let out a long howl. His howl contained endless anger and grief. He suddenly stood up with Yi Dingdang in his arms. Chapter 467. When Song Hanjun saw the expression in Tang Zheng's eyes, his heart pounded wildly as a sense of fear welled up in his heart. How can this be? How can I be afraid of him? Right now, he's just an ant waiting for me to trample on. How can I be afraid of him? Song Hanjun hurriedly consoled himself. But his heart was still unsettled. This won't do. If anything happens to Yi Dingdang, Tang Zheng will definitely seek revenge on me. This is too troublesome. Since I've already injured Yi Dingdang, then I'll go all the way and kill everyone here. That way, no one will know about this matter. Song Hanjun gnashed his teeth as he thought to himself. Tang Zheng glared at Song Hanjun, his eyes spitting fire. Song Hanjun, you're too despicable. You've clearly lost the bet, but you still want to act. I swear I won't let you off. If anything happens to Dingdang, I'll definitely use your life as a sacrifice to Dingdang. When Song Hanjun heard this, the killing intent in his eyes grew even more intense. Qin Badian also regained his senses as he roared with deep hatred, Song Hanjun, to think that you're a member of the Song family. You can't even afford to lose, and even despicably deal with a member of the younger generation. Truly despicable. Everyone under the heavens will look down on you. Song Hanjun's face turned ashen. Nonsense. Who I am is not for you to judge. Chu Xiaofeng was originally overjoyed when he saw Yi Dingdang win the bet. But in the blink of an eye, Song Hanjun actually added another move in his rage, causing the situation to change completely. This change was definitely beneficial to him. Thus, he couldn't wait to say, "Uncle Song, these people deserve to die. Keep up the good work and kill them all. This is the best solution." Song Ming glanced at Yi Dingdang, who was in Tang Zheng's embrace, and hurriedly said, "Father, Xiaofeng's words are reasonable. Letting them go is the same as letting the tiger return to the mountain. There will be great trouble. Tang Jing turned a deaf ear to their words and carried Yi Dingdang out of the room. Yi Dingdang was completely unconscious and needed immediate treatment. When Tang Jing passed by Song Hanjun, killing intent burst out from Song Hanjun's eyes. With a flip of his hand, a saber light flashed and directly attacked Tang Zhang's vital points. Obviously, Song Hanjun had made up his mind to go back on his word and not abide by the terms of the bet. He was going to kill Tang Jing without hesitation. Despicable. Stop. Upon seeing this, Qin Batian was enraged. Like a ferocious tiger, his hands formed into claws as he pounced towards Song Hanjun. However, he was still some distance away from Song Hanjun, so there was no way he could save Tang Jing. Tang Jing was seriously injured and had no way to circulate his true qi to resist. However, he did not dodge as he carried Yi Dingdang. Instead, he acted as if he did not see it and walked away with large strides. Seeing that the saber was about to cleave his head into two, Song Hanjuan's face revealed a pleased expression. Song Yu and Chu Xiaofeng also revealed relieved expressions. However, when Song Yu looked at Yi Dingdang in Tang Zhang's arms, she still felt a little pity. She thought to herself, Yi Dingdang is so dead set on following Tang Jing, how could she not know that her fate is already sealed? Now that she was about to die, it was her choice and her fate. Tang Jing faced the saber head-on, but the tip of his foot lightly hooked onto the ground. A bright light suddenly flew up from the ground and blocked the saber. A hand firmly grasped the hilt of the sword. This was a broken sword, only half of the sword was left. This was Yi Dingdang's sword, but it was broken by Song Hanjun. However, the broken sword was still powerful. In Tang Zhang's hand, a new wave of vitality burst forth. The broken sword stabbed out again and again, seemingly light and without any power. However, a series of sounds of Dingdong's saber and sword clashing rang out incessantly. Song Hanjuan's saber was unable to get any closer to Tang Jing. Swish! Suddenly, another sword stabbed out. This time, it was actually aimed at Song Hanjuan's chest from below, as if it wanted to split open Song Hanjuan's stomach. Song Hanjun hurriedly used his saber to block, but at this moment, Qin Batian finally arrived. A pair of claws fiercely clawed at Song Hanjuan's chest. Song Hanjun bent his body backwards, wanting to avoid both Qin Batian's claw and Tang Zhang's sword. Stab! The clothes on Song Hanjuan's chest were directly torn apart by Qin Batian's claw. However, Qin Batian's strength had already been exhausted, and he could only watch as his attack missed. Seeing that Tang Zhang's broken sword was also about to be exhausted, Song Hanjun heaved a sigh of relief. A disdainful smile appeared on his face. These two wanted to deal with him. Simply a fool's dream. If Tang Zhang's sword was a little longer, Song Hanjun would definitely have been pierced. However, the broken sword was already broken, and its power was greatly reduced. Song Ming and Chu Xiaofeng almost cheered. They understood that if Tang Zhang's attack missed, what awaited him would be Song Hanjuan's thunderous counterattack. Seeing that everything was already set in stone, some people were happy while others were sad. However, Tang Jing definitely did not have these two emotions. In his heart, there was only a towering rage and surging killing intent. Suddenly, the broken sword that had already exhausted all its strength broke free from Tang Zhang's grasp and flew forward. All of this happened without any warning. No one had expected that this sword that was at the end of its road would actually shine with vitality, like a withered tree that had come back to life. The broken sword flew straight in, extremely swift and fierce. Song Hanjuan's eyes widened as he roared, "No!" He quickly dodged backwards, but he was unable to dodge this swift and fierce sword. With a flash of sword light, it had already pierced his chest. Song Han-jun let out an earth-shattering scream as he staggered backwards, clutching his chest. Blood flowed out from the gaps between his fingers. Shockingly, there was a broken sword in his right chest. His complexion had already turned pale as he looked at Tang Jing in shock and disbelief. He roared, "Impossible!" However, all of this was already the truth. Tang Jing did not even look at him as he carried Yi Dingdang and walked past him. Meanwhile, Song Yu and Chu Xiaofeng looked at each other, their faces filled with fear. Seeing Tang Jing walk over, they did not have the slightest bit of courage to stop him. Although everyone knew that Tang Jing was already injured, his indomitable aura still made them not dare to underestimate him. Instead, a trace of fear appeared in their hearts. Tang Jing did not look sideways as he carried Yi Dingdang and walked out of the courtyard. He did not continue to pursue and kill Song Han-jun. Because he did not have the ability to. The series of attacks just now had already exhausted what little strength he had left. If he continued to fight, he would definitely reveal a flaw. Song Han-jun had taken this sword strike, but it did not hit any vital points. Only his lungs were pierced, and as long as he received treatment in time, his life would not be in danger. However, because of this strike, Qin Batian had once again become the most powerful expert present. Song Han-jun clutched his chest and already had thoughts of retreating. Seeing Tang Jing disappear into the rainy night, he did not have the courage to chase after him. Song Yu and Chu Xiaofeng finally woke up from their daze. Song Yu rushed to Song Han-jun and shouted with concern, "Father, how are you?" Song Han-jun gritted his teeth and said, "I won't die for the time being. This time, I was careless. Let's go to the hospital." After which, he looked at Qin Batian and said, "Today's matter is not over." If Qin Batian wanted to kill the other party, it was not impossible. However, he did not have the determination to do so. Because he was not like Tang Jing, he had too many misgivings. He knew that he was not a match for the Song family. Unless there was no other choice, he definitely did not want to meet them with weapons and completely block all paths. Song Han-jun and the other two also left. Qin Batian stood there in a daze, the scene from before still reverberating in his mind. Tang Jing was covered in injuries, but he still managed to stab Song Han-jun. This was too inconceivable. Where's Tang Jing? Yi Dingdang is injured. In this rain, where could he have gone? He immediately chased after him. However, there was only a curtain of rain left in the world, and Tang Jing's figure was nowhere to be seen. Where did Tang Jing go? He hugged Yi Dingdang and began to run as if he had gone mad. He ran in the rain with the water blooming around his feet and the rain hitting his body over and over again. It was already the 12th lunar month of the winter. After being drenched by the rain, his body was bitterly cold. Fortunately, he and Yi Dingdang's physique was not bad. Otherwise, just this rain alone would have taken their lives. They finally arrived at the Ya family's courtyard house. Tang Zhang's heart was about to jump out of his throat. His legs had already lost all feeling. The distance of running wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. He was so tired that his bones were about to fall apart. When he knocked on the Ya family's door, he gave the servants of the Ya family a big fright. Tang Zhang was not a stranger, and had been here many times before. The other party had already recognized him, and even recognized Yi Dingdang in his arms. Quickly call for people to save Dingdang. Tang Zhang gasped for breath as he roared. The servants hurriedly led the two of them in. Someone had already gone to inform them. Not long later, a figure darted out from inside at lightning speed. What happened to my daughter? Feng Xinyang anxiously asked. Tang Zhang's face was deathly pale. He was trembling and his teeth were chattering as he said, Dingdang is seriously injured. Quickly save her. Feng Xinyang's face suddenly changed. She took her daughter from his arms and then rushed into the room. At this time, Yi Tianlei also rushed out. When he saw the battered and exhausted Tang Zheng and his unconscious daughter, his face was also very ugly. Seeing that his wife had already carried his daughter to receive treatment, he hurriedly went in front of Tang Zheng and asked, "What happened?" Song Hanjun went back on his word. He didn't keep his word and injured Ding Dang. Tang Zheng weakly said. Song Hanjun. Yi Tianlei's eyes flashed with an ominous glint. He gritted his teeth hatefully. This despicable person actually injured my daughter. I definitely won't let him off. I already stabbed him. Tang Zheng said. You injured him. Yi Tianlei was shocked, but immediately felt relieved. Chu Chongyang was defeated by Tang Zheng, so it was not impossible for Song Hanjun to be injured by Tang Zheng. But looking at Tang Zheng's weak appearance, Yi Tianlei asked, "How are you?" I'm fine." As soon as his voice fell, Tang Zheng closed his eyes and softly fell down. He had exhausted all his strength and was physically and mentally exhausted. Finally, he fell down. Yi Tianlei hurriedly supported him and shouted, "Tang Zheng, what happened to you?" Seeing that he did not respond, he hurriedly carried him and rushed into the room. Chapter 468. The Ya family's mansion was in an uproar. When Yi Dingdang and Tang Zheng were sent to their respective rooms, the others also came one after another. Even Yi Xuanji was alarmed. Seeing Yi Tianlei walk out, Yi Tianming could not wait and said, "Tianlei, why did you bring this person into the Ya family? Don't you know how much trouble he caused today?" Yi Meiyu curled her lips and echoed, "That's right. Are you trying to drag our Ya family into the fire pit?" Yi Tianlei's face darkened, and he coldly snorted, "Could it be that I can just watch him die? Tang Zheng has nothing to do with the Ya family. What does his life and death have to do with the Ya family?" Yi Tianming argued. "You can do it, but I can't do such a thing," Yi Tianlei said angrily. Yi Xuanji's face darkened, and he shouted, "Stop arguing. For an outsider, the two of you are arguing. What kind of scandal is this? Are we going to let outsiders laugh at our Ya family?" The two brothers immediately fell silent. "How is he?" Yi Xuanji asked. "Tang Zheng is fine. He just fainted from exhaustion. He will be fine after resting for a while," Yi Tianlei said. Yi Xuanji nodded calmly. "Have you figured out what happened?" "It's Song Hanjun. He injured Ding Dang," Yi Tianlei said with fire in his eyes. The Song family made a move. Yi Xuanji and Yi Tianming were shocked. They looked at each other. Obviously, they did not expect the Song family to act so quickly. Previously, when the news of Chu Chongyang's death came, Yi Xuanji also had the thought of dealing with Tang Zheng. However, he suppressed this thought and prepared to wait and see. However, the Song family was obviously unwilling to be left behind and took the initiative to make a move. Even Song Hanjun couldn't succeed. This made the two of them even more suspicious. Humph, Song Hanjun is despicable and shameless. He took advantage of the situation but didn't gain any benefits. I heard that he was also injured by Tang Zheng, Yi Tianlei said, venting his anger. Song Hanjun was injured. Yi Xuanji and Yi Tianming's hearts were fiercely shocked. The two of them said in shock, "Tang Zheng killed Chu Chongyang and still has the strength to deal with Song Hanjun. This is too unfathomable." The two of them actually felt somewhat fortunate. Fortunately, they hadn't been in a hurry to make a move. Otherwise, they would have ended up like Song Hanjun. That would truly be a joke to others. Don't even mention that he didn't hurt Song Hanjun. Even if he didn't hurt him, Song Hanjun made a move on Ding Dang, so I definitely won't let this go. Yi Tianlei hatefully said. Tianlei, don't act rashly. This matter is very complicated and not as simple as it seems on the surface. Moreover, because of what happened today, the capital will become even more chaotic. At this moment, if you don't see the situation clearly and act rashly, there will only be benefits and no harm. Do you understand? Yi Xuanji warned. But Song Hanjun heard Ding Dang. Yi Tianlei unwillingly said. Yi Xuanji said with a heavy face, Ding Dang's matter will naturally be settled in the future. There's no need to rush. Yi Tianming glanced into the room and saw that Tang Zheng was lying on the bed unconscious. He had a bright idea and said, since the Song family has spent so much effort to deal with Tang Zheng, and now that Tang Zheng has fallen into our hands without any resistance, doesn't that mean we can use Tang Zheng to make an issue out of it? No. Yi Tianlei decisively objected. Yi Tianming sneered, Tianlei, he has nothing to do with the Ye family. Is it necessary for you to protect him? In short, Tang Zheng falling into our hands is definitely a good thing for us. Whether we hand him over to the Chu family or Wu Zhong, it will be of great benefit to the Ye family. If he was handed over to the Chu family, then they would definitely rope in the Chu family. At this moment, the Chu family needed foreign aid the most, and the Ye family extended an olive branch. The Chu family would definitely bite this hook and not let go. Yi Xuanji raised his eyebrows and seemed to be quite moved. When Yi Tianlei saw this, he was shocked and advised, absolutely not, father. Tang Zheng has been kind to the Ye family. Aren't we repaying kindness with enmity? Yi Ku, who had been silent, finally opened her mouth and asked curiously, second uncle, you have always said that Tang Zheng has been kind to the Ye family, but why have I never seen him do anything to the Ye family? This. Yi Tianlei looked at his father. The matter of the life-continuing pill was a secret. Only the people involved knew about it. Even Yi Tianming and the others did not know about it. Yi Xuanji understood Yi Tianlei's meaning and waved his hand, saying, don't talk about it. The Ye family and Tang Zheng have nothing to do with each other. There is no grudge between them. His words had already cut off all ties with Tang Zheng. As for the matter of the life-continuing pill, he had also forgotten about it. Yi Tianlei was very disappointed in his heart, but he did not dare to say anything. Tianlei, why are you still arguing here? Ding Dong's injuries are very serious. We are helpless. We must ask the senior king of medicine to come and treat her. Feng Xinyang rushed out from another room and shouted in exasperation. When Yi Tianlei heard this, he did not care about this issue and quickly rushed in. He found that Yi Dingdang had already changed into clean clothes, but her face was getting paler and paler. Her body was shivering and she was unconscious. She was on the verge of death. Father, you are familiar with the senior king of medicine. Do you know where he is now? Yi Tianlei asked anxiously. Yi Xuanji said, the king of medicine is still in the capital. During this time, he has been staying in the palace to treat the leader's illness. I will contact him immediately. I'll go pick him up. Yi Tianlei did not give him any chance to explain. He impatiently rushed out and drove away. Yi Xuanji contacted the king of medicine and explained the situation. Then, he told Feng Xinyang to take good care of Yi Dingdang and return to his room. Yi Tianming, Yi Ku, and Yi Meiyu looked at each other in dismay. Suddenly, Yi Meiyu pointed to Tang Zheng's room and said quietly, Dad, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Capture him and hand him over to either side. Yi Meiyu's feelings towards Tang Zheng were very complicated. At the beginning, she did not look down on Tang Zheng at all, but after Tang Zheng shone a little bit, she even had the idea of trying to rope in Tang Zheng to be her own subject. However, Tang Jing did not give her any face at all, causing her to return in failure. Of course, because of this, her hatred for Tang Jing grew day by day. Ever since his identity as a cultivator was exposed, she had a high-sounding reason to deal with Tang Jing. This was a rare opportunity, so how could she let it go so easily? Yika's expression changed, and said, "But Grandpa hasn't said anything yet." Yi Meiyu curled her lips and said, "So what if Grandpa hasn't said anything? If we act first and report later, Grandpa will definitely have no objections. Right now, second uncle wants to protect Tang Jing. Taking advantage of the fact that he is not at home, we will send Tang Jing out without anyone noticing. When he comes back, everything will be over. What can he do to us? Moreover, I think Grandpa's attitude is also acquiescing, but because of second uncle's face, he can't say it directly." Yi Tianming's expression changed. After a long while, he finally gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, according to what Meiyu said, we will control Tang Jing and send him out of the Ya family first. Then, we will decide whether to send him to the Chu family or Wuzong." Yi Meiyu was overjoyed and cheered with joy. She praised, "Father is wise, this is definitely one of the wisest decisions you have ever made." Kacha. As soon as her voice fell, a bolt of lightning flashed across the night sky, illuminating the faces of the three people. Yi Tianming's heartstrings trembled, and he suddenly had a bad premonition. It seemed that this decision would cause a great disaster. He glanced at the dark clouds in the sky and muttered, "Why is the weather getting weirder and weirder? There is still thunder and lightning in the winter." He shook his head and drove away the messy thoughts in his heart and said, "Yi Ku, you go and do this matter. Be careful not to let outsiders know. As for Tianlei, when he comes back and asks, just say that you don't know. Just treat it as if Tang Jing woke up and left by himself." "Yes, I understand, and I will tell the servants to directly say that Tang Jing left by himself. There will definitely be no flaws." Since her father had made up his mind, Yi Ku would no longer object and strive to do this matter perfectly. Yi Tianming looked at Yi Ku approvingly. His son's mind was still very meticulous, and he considered the problem thoroughly. He could be of great use in the future. Tang Jing disappeared. He was put in the car by Yi Ku and disappeared in the rainy night. Not long after, Yi Tianlei returned with King of Medicine. King of Medicine immediately started treatment for Yi Dingdang. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang anxiously waited outside the door and kept pacing back and forth. "How is the little handsome brother?" Suddenly, Feng Xinyang asked casually. "He is lying in bed in a coma. I don't know if he woke up or not," Yi Tianlei said as he directly went to the room, but when he saw the empty room, he was stunned for a moment, and immediately roared in anger, "Where is Tang Jing?" The servant hurriedly ran over and said with trepidation, "He woke up by himself and then left." "Left? He was injured, why didn't you stop him?" Yi Tianlei asked. The servant panicked and said, "We don't dare." Yi Tianlei coldly snorted and knew that it was useless to investigate. He was just worried about where Tang Jing had gone. It was raining heavily outside. What if he encountered an enemy? But at this time, going out to find him was like looking for a needle in a haystack. It was useless. Yi Dingdang was still receiving treatment, and he was also unable to do anything. Feng Xinyang saw her husband come back with a livid face. She quickly asked about Tang Jing's situation, but was told that he had left on his own. Feng Xinyang immediately frowned and said in bewilderment, "Why would the little handsome brother leave without even saying goodbye? This isn't his style. Maybe he hates it here, so he left without saying goodbye. The next time we meet him, we will thank him together," Yi Tianlei said. Feng Xinyang's heart was in a mess. Her heart was worried about her daughter, and she really did not have any extra thoughts to carefully figure it out. This storm was the heaviest winter rain in the capital in 20 years. The city's filth was washed away, and many conspiracies were hidden in the rain. A car stopped in a quiet place. Yiku held the phone and sat in the driver's seat. Her face was dignified and said, "Father, you mean to inform Chu family and Wuzong about Tang Zhang's news? Make 2 deals." "Yes, anyway, they want to get rid of Tang Zhang quickly. In this case, give this good news to them. 1 business to earn 2 benefits, maximize the benefits, and let them take Tang Zhang's little life together." Yi Tianming said. "Sure enough, he is an old fox. He is so smart." Yiku's heart was secretly convinced. This move is still good. You wait in place and don't move. They will come to you. Yi Tianming warned. Chapter 469. Yiku sat in the driver's seat and turned her head to look at Tang Jing, who was lying in the back seat and could not move. His expression was very complicated. He had no direct conflict with Tang Jing, but the appearance of Yi Tianlei interrupted his established steps and original life. Yi Tianlei returned to the Ya family, and the position of the next head of the family was undecided. Who would be the next head of the family? The more he thought about it, the more uncertain he was. From the time Yiku could remember, he was destined to become the successor of the 3rd generation of the Yi family. He had always been strict with himself, unlike Chu Xiaofeng, this kind of playboy, who liked to play with cats and dogs, and was insufferably arrogant. He was conscientious and prepared for his future. Even when Yi Tianlei had just returned to the Ya family, he did not feel an obvious threat, but since the appearance of Tang Jing, Yi Tianlei's limelight gradually flourished. Yiku finally felt threatened, so she couldn't wait to inform her father, Yi Tianming, to return to China. Tang Jing caused all this to have a qualitative change. Therefore, his feelings about Tang Jing were very complicated, and he muttered to himself, "Tang Jing, don't blame me. All this is not what I want, but I have to do it, for the Ya family, and for myself." Dong dong. The car door was knocked, and Chu Xiaofeng's face appeared in front of the window. Plus, you came quite quickly. Yiku got off the car. Chu Xiaofeng's face was gloomy. This matter was really full of twists and turns. He originally thought that it was hopeless to get rid of Tang Jing, but he did not expect that Tang Jing actually fell into the hands of the Ya family, and the Ya family was willing to offer him with both hands. Of course, the Ya family refused. Chu Mingxian was preparing for Chu Chongyang's funeral, so he specially sent his son, Chu Xiaofeng, to come and receive Tang Jing. According to their intention, since Tang Jing had been captured, they would bring him to Chu Chongyang's coffin and use his blood to pay tribute to Chu Chongyang. Chu Xiaofeng stared at Tang Jing in the back seat with fire in his eyes and said, "The Chu family will remember this matter." He opened the car door and dragged Tang Jing out. Seeing that he had no intention of immediately solving Tang Jing, Yiku asked, "What are you going to do?" "Of course we'll bring him back and kill him." "You still want to bring him back?" Yiku's face sank. Her and Yi Tianming's intention was to let the Chu family and the martial organization deal with Tang Jing together, so that they could sell 2 favors. Now that the people from the martial sect had not arrived yet, he could not let the Chu clan take him away just like that. Of course. Chu Xiaofeng frowned. "Is there a problem?" "There is no big problem, but the martial organization's people will come soon. You can take him away together." Yiku said. "Martial ancestor. Did you inform them too?" "The martial sect just so happens to have people in the capital, and Tang Zhang is a cultivator, so of course we have to inform them." Yiku suddenly stared at a beautiful figure walking in the rainy night and said, "The martial organization's people are here." Chu Xiaofeng turned his head and looked. His heart was shocked, but he still resolutely said, Tang Jing killed my grandfather, I must take him away. That depends on whether you have the ability. Marshall's voice floated from afar. Her voice fell, and she was already standing in front of the two people. Yika spread out her hands and shrugged, saying, I have already handed him over to you. As for how to discuss how to deal with him, that is your business. I will not express my opinion. Marshall coldly said, he is a cultivator, of course he has to be handed over to the Marshall organization. No, he is the enemy of the Chu family. How can he fall into the hands of others? I must take him away. Chu Xiaofeng did not give in. Marshall disdainfully said, then do you have the ability? You. Chu Xiaofeng suddenly stagnated and his face turned red. Don't go too far. This is the capital, not other places. The implication was that the Chu family was powerful in the capital, and even the Marshall organization had to have scruples and give the Chu family face. But Chu Xiaofeng still underestimated the pride of the Marshall organization. Marshall lightly swept a glance at him and said, so what if it is the capital? If you don't want the Chu family to be destroyed, then hand over Tang Jing to me and live with your tail between your legs. This way you can live for a few more days. Chu Xiaofeng had already received a lot of stimulation, and his emotions had reached the peak of eruption. Hearing these words, it was like a barrel of explosives that was immediately ignited. He did not care about the illustrious reputation of the Marshall organization, and immediately said angrily, I will not hand him over to you. If you have the guts, then kill me. I want to see if the Marshall organization really can cover the sky with one hand. Holding on to Tang Zheng's two arms, he walked towards his own car, completely ignoring martial arts. Seeing this, Yika secretly cried out, but it was too late to persuade. She only saw Marshall's palm strike out and said, if you want to die, then I will fulfill your wish. Marshall was a person who killed people without blinking an eye. Although she had suffered a lot in the hands of Tang Jing, she had never suffered a loss in front of others. Chu Xiaofeng deliberately provoked her, and she had no intention of showing mercy. A roaring flame blade ruthlessly slashed at Chu Xiaofeng's back. Chu Xiaofeng suddenly felt a heat wave coming, and was shocked, and quickly threw Tang Jing behind him. Marshall immediately changed her move, and suddenly grabbed Tang Jing's shoulder and fell into her palm. Taking advantage of the situation, Tang Jing lay in her arms. His tall body hit her chest, and the two people were closely pressed together. Her heart could not help but shake. Chu Xiaofeng saw the cooked duck fly away. He glared and roared, give him back to me. Marshall did not talk nonsense with him, and directly offered him a roaring flame blade. Chu Xiaofeng retreated in embarrassment. He could only stare like a tiger watching its prey, but he did not dare to come forward to grab people. Marshall prepared to leave with Tang Jing. Yiku finally couldn't help but ask, are you going to deal with him? This is not a problem you should care about. Marshall did not look back and disappeared into the pouring rain with Tang Jing, leaving the two people looking at each other, not knowing what to do. Chu Xiaofeng glared at Yiku and said, you shouldn't have told this news to that smelly woman. Yiku looked embarrassed. She and Yi Tianming originally hoped to maximize the benefits, but they did not expect Marshall to not play according to the routine, and instead provoked Chu Xiaofeng. He could not let his hard work go to waste, and quickly advised, Marshall will definitely kill Tang Jing, and it can be considered as revenge for the Chongyang family head. Humph. Chu Xiaofeng was noncommittal, snorted angrily, and turned away. Although Chu Xiaofeng was very unwilling, he believed that Tang Jing was indeed dead, but not in his hands, but in the hands of Marshall. Would Marshall kill Tang Jing? Of course not. He looked at the unconscious Tang Jing and muttered to himself, you are really too unexpected. You actually did such a big thing. I'm afraid that the capital will not tolerate you. The sect master has always wanted you to go to Marshall. It would be better to take this opportunity to take you there. However, she immediately remembered Tang Zheng's attitude towards this matter, and was somewhat shaken. The sect master had once told her not to force Tang Zheng, and that everything had to be done voluntarily. If she took him away at this moment, it would definitely not be his original intention. Marshall thought hard, and denied this point after a while. Tang Zheng was already unconscious, where would the original intention come from? Moreover, this was also to protect him. Marshall smiled proudly, very satisfied with the excuse he found. However, the smile did not last long. In an instant, it disappeared completely, and his face became very dignified. More than 10 people walked out from the corner of the street, each holding an oil paper umbrella. Raindrops fell on the oil paper umbrella, and a curtain of water hung on the edge of the umbrella. Marshall looked at the more than 10 people and asked, "Who are you?" "Hee, Marshall, don't you recognize me so quickly?" A familiar voice floated out from under the oil paper umbrella. The umbrella gently lifted up, revealing a beautiful face. Li Xiaotian. Li Xiaotian was smiling as he looked at Marshall, and his gaze lingered on Tang Zheng, who was in her arms. He smiled like a flower and said, "You acted really quickly, he actually fell into your hands." Back then, the two of them had not seen each other since they parted ways in the 10,000 huge mountains. However, Li Xiaotian had brought so many people to this moment. "Get out of the way," Marshall said expressionlessly. Marshall's smile did not diminish as he asked, "May I ask, what do you plan to do with him?" "This is a matter of the Marshall sect. You don't need to care," Marshall replied coldly. Li Xiaotian shrugged and said, "Is that so? However, the information shows that during this period of time, you and him have always been at odds. It doesn't seem like the Marshall sect's attitude towards cultivators. This is really strange. Could it be that the Marshall sect has changed its tradition and instead of killing cultivators, it provides protection?" Marshall's heart skipped a beat. The Li Palace's intelligence system was truly all-pervasive. The relationship between the two of them in the capital was actually not hidden from their eyes and ears. "Nonsense," Marshall immediately retorted. He could not let the rules of the Marshall sect be broken. The Marshall sect has always viewed cultivators as their mortal enemies. How could they provide protection for them? "Oh, is that so? Then kill him now and I'll believe your words." Didn't the Marshall sect do this in the past? Capture a cultivator and directly cut him in half, clean and tidy. Li Xiaotian put on a fake smile, but his words were filled with a strong killing intent, causing people to tremble in fear. Back then, Li Xiaotian was still chatting and laughing with Tang Zheng, and even experienced the mysterious things in the Buzhou mountain together. But now, she actually had the intention to kill Tang Zheng. This matter had changed so quickly that it was truly unexpected. It was no wonder that Tang Zheng had always regarded her as a black-bellied girl. Li Xiaotian's attitude towards Tang Zheng had changed so much that it was inseparable from the trip to the 10,000 huge mountains. It was precisely because she had witnessed the strength of the 100 Transformation Star Lord that she understood how powerful and terrifying cultivators were. Now, her attitude towards cultivators had changed from indifference to wanting to kill them quickly. It was simply a replica of the previous Marshall sect. Marshall frowned and said, "You don't have the qualifications to tell me what to do. Get out of the way, or else I won't be polite." "Is that so?" "Hee, I know you're very powerful, so I came prepared." Li Xiaotian waved his hand forward, and the others immediately walked towards Marshall. A sharp aura gushed out and interweaved in the air. The speed of the rain falling from the sky actually slowed down, and the oil paper umbrella in their hands started to spin faster and faster. Marshall's pupils constricted, and said, 12 people, is this the famous 12 palaces of the Li Palace?" Hee, since you know him, then please enlighten me," Li Xiaotian said with a smile. Chapter 470. The 12 of them moved in one breath, as if they were one person, quickly surrounding Marshall and Tang Jing in the center, the oil paper umbrella quickly spinning. So. The sound of breaking air rang out. The raindrops were like bullets shot out from a gun barrel, covering the sky and covering the earth as they flew towards Marshall. Marshall raised his eyebrows, his entire body emitting killing intent. He stomped on the ground with one foot, causing the raindrops to fly up, as if they had a life of their own. They soared into the air. Marshall waved his hand, and a scorching wave of air rushed out in all directions. These water droplets seemed to have turned into small flames, quickly colliding with the raindrops that were like bullets. Bang bang bang. A series of explosions rang out. But before these sounds disappeared, the 10 of them moved like the wind, quickly changing their positions, and the encirclement became smaller and smaller. Whiz! An oil paper umbrella suddenly pierced out, straight for the space between Marshall's eyebrows. Marshall's expression did not change. He used Roaring Flame Blade. In an instant, all the raindrops falling from the sky evaporated, and this Roaring Flame Blade met the oil paper umbrella. The oil paper umbrella was blocked and bounced back, but the Roaring Flame Blade did not take advantage of the opportunity to pursue, because the other 3 oil paper umbrellas attacked at the same time. Furthermore, the attack was 10 plus or minus, and the position of the attack was completely different, the top, middle, and bottom 3, with tacit understanding, murderous intent. Marshall immediately dealt with it, escaping from the 3 consecutive attacks, but the attacks of the 12 palaces were endless, one move after another. It was too much for the eyes to take in. Marshall's cultivation had already increased from the 1st grade natal stage to the 3rd grade natal stage. His fighting strength had soared, and he was not flustered by the continuous attacks. Instead, he was able to deal with them with ease. This battle was extremely intense. Both sides had their own strengths, danger surrounded them, and the battle was difficult to determine. Li Xiaotian watched coldly from the sidelines. Unknowingly, she frowned and muttered, "The last time we met in the 10,000 Great Mountains, she was only at the 1st grade natal stage. Why is it that the fighting strength she is displaying has already surpassed the 1st grade natal stage, and even the 2nd grade natal stage?" In this period of time, Li Xiaotian had returned to Li Palace, and cultivated tirelessly. She had also gained some benefits, reaching the 2nd grade natal stage, but she did not expect Marshall's cultivation to completely surpass her. This puzzled her no matter how she thought about it. But so what if he's a 3rd grade natal realm warrior? The 12 palaces' battle prowess can completely crush a 3rd grade natal realm warrior. The 12 people from the 12 palaces were all 1st grade Xiantian realm cultivators, and each of them was only in their 20s. They were only a few years older than Li Xiaotian. To be able to have such a cultivation at such a young age, they could be considered to be quite capable. However, these people had a fatal flaw. Li Palace had used a secret method to cultivate them to become experts. In other words, according to their true talent, it was impossible for them to reach the 1st grade of the Xiantian realm at their age. However, Li Palace could use a secret method to achieve this. However, there was a saying, pulling the shoots to help them grow. Although their cultivation could be improved quickly, their future achievements would not be great. They would be stuck at the 5th grade of innate realm for their entire lives, unable to reach the peak of martial arts. Their individual strength wasn't great, but when the 12 of them worked together, their battle prowess soared. This was the power of the 12 palaces. Their battle would be coordinated with a formation called the 12 Palaces Killing Formation. This formation could stack their strength and finally achieve the goal of killing enemies with higher cultivation than them. Change formation. Li Xiaotian coldly shouted, and the movements of the 12 people changed in an instant. Their footsteps became faster, and like a business, wisps of smoke floated around Marshall. Marshall hugged Tang Jing with one hand and was no longer able to fight. She pulled out her belt and tied Tang Jing to her back. With Tang Jing on her back, she looked at the enemy without fear. Li Xiaotian felt Marshall's determination and said, "Marshall, why are you so stubborn? Kill Tang Zhang and we will leave. We will definitely not make things difficult for you." Li Palace and Marshall Organization were after all members of the three mysterious organizations. Unless there was no other choice, Li Xiaotian did not want to shed all pretense of cordiality. Marshall bit her lips, took a deep breath and said, "With me here, if you want to kill him, you have to ask my roaring flame blade first. You are very clear on the power of the 12 palaces. You are not their opponent. Even if you continue to fight, you will only lose," Li Xiaotian advised. Marshall stared angrily, her eyes were firm and did not speak. Li Xiaotian already understood Marshall's thoughts. Today, there was no way to get the best of both worlds. Thus, he clenched his teeth and said, "Then there is nothing to talk about. Attack!" The attacks of the 12 palaces suddenly became even more fierce. If it was a storm before, then it was now a tsunami. Wave after wave of attacks were like monstrous waves crashing towards Marshall. Marshall was like a small boat in the ocean, floating and sinking, resisting with difficulty. Marshall was very clear on the strength of the 12 palaces. She was not their opponent, but she would not admit defeat. Not only was this related to her pride, it was also related to the honor of the Marshall Organization. How could the people of the Marshall Organization admit defeat to the Li Palace? That way, she would not have the face to see the sect master. Even if she died in battle, she would not hesitate. From the corner of her eyes, she glanced at Tang Jing, who was hanging his head on her shoulder, and thought, "Tang Jing, it seems like we are going to die together today." For some reason, the charming scene in the 10,000 Great Mountains appeared in her mind. However, she immediately restrained her thoughts and faced the enemy's attack. Wu's roaring flame blade had already reached the point of perfection. Unknowingly, her palm had turned red, like a red-hot soldering iron. Streams of hot air rose up, and the rain in the sky turned into steam before it even landed on her palm. In an instant, steam lingered around her, as if it had turned into a fairyland. Unknowingly, the rain stopped. However, the sky was still dark and oppressive. Furthermore, there were flashes of lightning in the clouds, as if they could fall at any time. Move after move of the roaring flame saber illuminated the pitch-black night, as well as the 12 zodiacs opposite them. The oil paper umbrellas in their hands were already in tatters. The surface of the umbrella had completely disappeared, leaving only the bamboo pole of the umbrella. And this was not the main pole of an ordinary umbrella. Instead, it was an iron rod. It was very slender, just like the slender waist of the 12 palaces. Every iron rod was shining with a cold light. It was a sharp weapon used to take a person's life. The 12 iron rods advanced and retreated at the same time. There were many changes, making it hard for people to guard against. Puff! One of the iron rods pierced into Marshall's arm, bringing about a trace of blood. Marshall's eyebrows trembled slightly, and then she counterattacked without saying a word. After a successful attack, the opponent did not give chase and retreated unscathed. However, there were people attacking from other directions. This repeated over and over again. Marshall's defeat gradually became apparent. There were a few times when the iron rod was about to pierce Tang Zhang's back. Marshall suddenly turned around and used her own body to block it. Because of this, her shoulder and abdomen were injured. Blood flowed out from her body and fell to the ground. It mixed with the rain and seeped into the ground. Marshall's expression did not change. She was as firm as a rock. Li Xiaotian sighed and said, "Why are you doing this? He is a cultivator and you are a martial artist. You are natural enemies. Why are you not hesitating to sacrifice your own life for him?" Marshall did not know the answer. She only knew that Tang Zhang was extremely important to the Marshall sect. Furthermore, it was more likely that he was the sect master's descendant. How could she let anything happen to Tangjing? Take her down. Just don't kill her. Li Xiaotian gave the final order. The attacks of the 12 palaces became more and more unpredictable. Suddenly, an iron rod pierced through Marshall's shoulder. A few people flashed behind her and grabbed Tangjing. With a fierce pull, the belt broke and Tangjing was separated from her body. Marshall seemed to have gone crazy. She did not care about the pain and roared, "No!" Her hands quickly grabbed the iron rod on her shoulder and slashed at the iron rod with her roaring flame blade. Gotcha! The iron rod broke into two. She grabbed the half of the iron rod that pierced her body and pulled it out without hesitation. She threw it forward. Puff! The iron rod was still stained with her blood. It accurately shot into the throat of a 12 palaces woman. She immediately fell to the ground and died. With one person dead, a flaw appeared in the 12 palaces killing formation. Its power was greatly reduced. However, Tangjing was already snatched away. It was almost impossible for Marshall to snatch him back. Wu's face was ashen as he stared at Li Xiaotian in anger, and said, "Return him to me." Tangjing had already fallen into Li Xiaotian's hands. Seeing that he was unconscious, Li Xiaotian's expression was complicated. He thought to himself, if not for the fact that I had seen so much in the prehistoric Heavenly Tomb and the Buzhou Mountain, I wouldn't have had the heart to kill you. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for being a cultivator. However, if I kill you like this, the whereabouts of the heaven-shocking bow and the shooting sun arrows will be unknown. Li Xiaotian had always been thinking about these two divine weapons. Back then, Tangjing had only given her one shooting sun arrow, and she cherished it a lot. If she could take these two divine weapons for herself, her strength would really increase rapidly. But if I don't kill you while you're unconscious, when you wake up, you'll definitely have many ways to escape. Li Xiaotian was also a brave and scheming person. He did things cleanly and efficiently. Since he recognized the threat of Tangjing, then even if he had to give up the two divine weapons, he had to kill him. Seeing the dense killing intent in Li Xiaotian's eyes, Wu Xian's heart was in a mess, and continued to shout, "Put him down." Li Xiaotian suddenly raised his head, the corner of his mouth raised into a smile. He looked at Wu with interest and said, "I don't know what exactly the martial sect is planning to do to him, but if I can ruin the martial sect's plans, then it will be a happy thing. Furthermore, if I kill him, no one in the world will say anything, because this world is the world of martial artists. Of course they won't stand up for a cultivator, don't you think so? If you kill him, then you will be the enemy of the martial sect. The sect master will definitely not let you off." Wu did not dare to tell the truth. Otherwise, if the world knew that the son of the martial sect master was a cultivator, it would be the biggest joke in the world. The prestige and reputation of the martial sect would plummet and fall off the altar. This was an unacceptable result. Even if Wu wanted to protect Tangjing, he did not dare to reveal this matter. Chapter 471. Li Xiaotian suddenly grabbed Tangjing's neck. The powerful force was determined to break his neck in one go. "Don't!" Marshall subconsciously shouted to stop him, but it only attracted Li Xiaotian's cold smile. Boom! Suddenly, the sound of thunder in the sky caused the heaven and earth to tremble. Lightning tore through the night sky, illuminating the heaven and earth in a pale white. Whoosh! A ball of flame fell from the sky. It was as if a horn was blown. In an instant, dozens of balls of flame fell from the sky. Li Xiaotian's hand involuntarily stopped. He raised his head and looked at the sky in shock. What's going on? Balls of fire actually fell from the sky. Before Li Xiaotian could react, a few balls of flame fell in their direction. Li Xiaotian hurriedly shouted, "Dodge!" He grabbed Tang Zheng and dodged to the side, but a girl from the 12 zodiacs was one step slower and was touched by the flames. It was as if she was drenched in gasoline. With a single touch, she turned into a large fireball in the blink of an eye. This flame was very strange. In less than a minute, that person was burned to ashes, leaving only a mournful scream that still echoed in everyone's ears. The 12 zodiacs lost 2 members. The power was greatly reduced. The key was that everyone was looking at the sky in shock, not knowing what was going on. Roar! Suddenly, 2 roars sounded in the sky, only to see the dark clouds rolling, the flames and lightning reflecting each other. The scene was terrifying. Li Xiaotian temporarily forgot about Tang Jing in his hand. He stared blankly at the black clouds, muttering as if he was sleep-talking, "Demon beast, it's a demon beast." Demon beasts appeared in the sky above the capital, and it was not 1, but 2. These 2 demon beasts were fighting fiercely. However, the fire at the city gate affected the fish in the moat. The flames falling from the sky immediately ignited the houses on the ground. Fortunately, this area was not bustling, and because it had just rained, the houses were wet, weakening the power of the flames. But even so, 2 houses were emitting billowing black smoke. Many people were rushing out of the buildings, screaming in panic. Wu Yi looked at the sky in confusion, but in the next moment, she retracted her attention and looked at Tang Jing. Whoosh! A figure flashed. Marshall was like a cool breeze, directly arriving in front of Li Xiaotian. Li Xiaotian reacted quickly. The tip of his foot touched the ground and quickly retreated, while the other helpers also quickly stood in front of Li Xiaotian to protect him, blocking Marshall's attack. Li Xiaotian came back to his senses and said, "The world is really in chaos. Such a powerful demonic beast actually appeared in the capital. A long night without sleep is full of dreams. I will kill Tang Jing right now." Li Xiaotian tightened his grip, and Tang Zheng's neck made a cracking sound, as if his bones were breaking. Marshall's eyes were about to split open, and Zhuang Ruo roared crazily, but to no avail. Just at this moment, a bolt of lightning and flame simultaneously landed on Li Xiaotian's position. Li Xiaotian hastily reacted, and missed the opportunity to kill Tang Jing. Li Xiaotian stomped his feet in hatred. He raised his head to look at the sky, only to see the black clouds dissipating, revealing the 2 colossal creatures hiding behind the black clouds. Li Xiaotian could not help but exclaim, "Thundercloud beast." Yes, one of the colossal creatures in the sky was the Thundercloud beast, and the other colossal creature was a pair of fiery red wings. The big bird spat out flames, dyeing the sky red. The Thundercloud beast was not to be outdone. Lightning covered the sky as it fought with the big bird happily. What kind of demonic beast is this big bird? This question popped up in Li Xiaotian's mind, but in an instant, her attention shifted to Tang Jing in her hands. Since the Thundercloud beast had appeared in the capital, if she did not immediately get rid of Tang Jing, then there would be no chance. If Tian Chanzi also appeared, then she would not have the chance to escape. But when she reacted, it was already too late. The Thundercloud beast in the sky had already discovered Tang Jing on the ground, and could not help but widen its eyes. It roared towards the sky, and like a whirlwind, it descended from the sky, heading straight for Li Xiaotian. The 12 zodiacs hurriedly blocked, but only saw a flash of lightning, and 10 people were immediately entangled by the lightning, turning into charcoal and falling to the ground. The Thundercloud beast completely disintegrated the famous 12 zodiacs, and sent out a bolt of lightning, heading straight for Li Xiaotian. Li Xiaotian let out a strange cry, threw Tang Jing towards the lightning, and quickly retreated. She knew that it was already too late. With the protection of the Thundercloud beast, she would not be able to harm Tang Jing. Just as the lightning was about to hit Tang Jing, the lightning disappeared without any warning, and the Thundercloud beast's claws grabbed onto Tang Jing, sending him to lie on its back. Marshall was not unfamiliar with the thundercloud beast. Seeing this situation, he could not help but heave a sigh of relief, then fiercely stared at Li Xiaotian, gritted his teeth and said, "Li Xiaotian, I am not done with you." Li Xiaotian was unmoved, and said, "If you want to deal with me, then wait until next time." Before she finished speaking, she glanced at Tang Jing, and unwillingly turned around and ran. She knew that she was not a match for Marshall, and was even more not a match for the thundercloud beast, so it was better to leave first. Chirp! With a bird cry, the big bird flapped its wings and swooped down, spitting out another stream of flames from its sharp beak. The thundercloud beast raised its head and retaliated. The flames and lightning collided in the air, creating dazzling sparks. "Flame bird, you are not my match. Obediently surrender," the thundercloud beast said directly. The flame bird was not an ordinary demonic beast, it could also speak human language. It sneered, "Thundercloud beast, you betrayed Master. Master is looking everywhere for your whereabouts. Now that I have found you, let's see how you escape. Your death is not far away." "Flame bird, it's your business that you are willing to recognize that person as your master. You don't have the ability to kill me," the thundercloud beast said angrily. Marshall listened to the conversation between the two at a loss. He was extremely curious about the master they spoke of. Just who could subdue such a powerful demonic beasts? "When I capture you, Master will definitely be very happy," the flame bird said excitedly. "Then let's see if you have the ability." The thundercloud beast soared into the air and pounced towards the flame bird. The two demonic beasts fought in the sky in an earth-shattering manner. However, Tang Jing acted as if nothing had happened, and continued to sleep on the back of the thundercloud beast. Marshall stared blankly at the scene in the sky. He let out a long sigh and said faintly, "This time, the world is really going to be in chaos. How can such a huge commotion be hidden from the world?" Indeed, he could not hide it. In the past few days, too many unbelievable things had happened in the capital. A few days ago, there was an earthquake, and just now, there was lightning and thunder, as well as a violent storm. Although it was late at night and it was pitch black, under the illumination of the flames and lightning in the sky, although it was not as bright as day, the rough outlines of the two demonic beasts were still reflected in the eyes of many people. This was a world where communication was developed. It was too difficult to keep a secret, especially with such a shocking incident. It was no less than the topic of aliens that people had always been talking about. Looking at the two colossi, it was as if they were aliens with shocking abilities in the movies. One by one, people held up their phones, cameras, and video recorders, recording this earth-shattering scene. These people were not afraid, but excited. They had an instinctive excitement towards novel things. However, some people could not get excited. The officials hoped for stability, even though they already knew of the existence of demonic beasts and had even captured a few demonic beasts from the 10,000 huge mountains to study. However, they did not expect that these two colossi would appear in the sky above the capital. It was completely out of their expectations. The emergency plan was immediately activated. Countless military vehicles drove out of the military hospital and rushed over as fast as lightning. Then, they blocked the people who were watching the show. These few streets were immediately sealed off and became a temporary military restricted zone. Armed soldiers guarded every intersection, and even the police were not allowed to enter. A few military personnel walked in. The person in the lead was Major General Xing Feng, who had met Tang Jing once in Dianan, and beside him was Kai Guibin. Xing Feng had a deep relationship with the Long family. Back then, he had informed Long Xianyuan and revealed Tang Zhang's whereabouts, but in the end, Tang Zhang had escaped unscathed. However, because Xing Feng had dealt with the demonic beasts, he was directly transferred from the Dianan military district to the capital military district. The officials attached great importance to the appearance of cultivators and demonic beasts. Although it was a secret, they had already started to make preparations internally. Among them, a new organization called the Dragon Group was established to deal with this kind of troublesome matter. Because Xing Feng had relevant experience, he was temporarily transferred to the position of team leader of the Dragon Group. Although he was only a team leader, he had the right to report to the highest leader of the country. Therefore, Xing Feng could be considered to have been promoted. Kai Guibin had also risen in rank. He had already been promoted from captain to vice division commander. It could be said that he had completed a huge leap in his life. However, no one expected that not long after the establishment of the Dragon Group, 2 demonic beasts would appear in the capital without any warning. What kind of place was the capital? This was the central hub of a country. It was like the heart of a person. Yet, such a huge situation had occurred here. That would be a dereliction of duty for the Dragon Group. Therefore, Xing Feng and Kai Guibin's expressions were not very good. They took large strides, and many soldiers followed in an orderly manner. The two of them looked at the scene in the sky. Xing Feng's face was ashen as he said, "Think of a way to get them down first." In the sky, under the watchful eyes of everyone, what other secrets could there be? It will only make things worse. Kai Guibin nodded his head in agreement. He waved his hand behind him, and a few fully armed people quickly walked up and stood at attention. "Go, get them down," Kai Guibin ordered. Yes. This group of people accepted the order without any hesitation, as if they completely ignored the huge monster in the sky. They were not afraid at all. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Flames shot out from the backs of these soldiers. They soared into the sky like rockets. They actually flew. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.